She was the daughter of the Cheng family, enemies of the Prince Regent's house. Her husband was Rong Yu, the esteemed Prince Regent of the entire Qing dynasty. Yet, in his youth and naivete, he didn't understand true love. He helped the vile man, Qing Shu, and the malicious woman, Nan Yu, plot against the Prince Regent. Ultimately, he met a tragic end, poisoned and paralyzed. In that perilous moment, the Prince Regent, whom he had always despised, protected him with his life. Rong Yu tragically died, pierced by 10,000 arrows. Nan Xi, holding Rong Yu's corpse, was inconsolable. He swore, if there was an afterlife, he would never plot against Rong Yu again, and would cherish him for the rest of his life. Rong Yu used his last ounce of strength to raise his hand, gently caressing Nan Xi's cheek. Then his arm fell. He closed his eyes and took his last breath. Nan Xi desperately called out to Rong Yu, but the man before him would not return. He despaired, collapsing onto Rong Yu's body, gradually losing consciousness. After an unknown amount of time, a gentle, familiar voice called his name. Nan Xi felt the pain throughout his body gradually soothed by the gentle voice. He abruptly sat up, gasping for breath. He looked beside him and saw Rong Yu. Rong Yu tenderly asked him if he had a nightmare. Only then did Nan Xi realize he had truly been reborn. He remembered his past life, then closed his eyes, leaning in to smell Rong Yu's scent. Rong Yu was not only the Prince Regent and Grand Marshal of the entire Qing dynasty, but also the youngest brother of the current emperor. Such an esteemed identity, no one in the entire continent could match. Yet, facing such a powerful and respected man, in his past life, he was so foolish and repeatedly tried to harm him. In the end, he even caused Rong Yu to die tragically for him. Nan Xi hated his past self for his poor judgment. He clenched his fists tightly, but Rong Yu misunderstood Nan Xi's emotions. My presence makes you so uneasy. He helplessly closed his eyes, turning to leave. But Nan Xi called out behind him, Rong Yu, I have something to tell you. Rong Yu paused. He didn't know what Nan Xi wanted to say. Would he say he would never love him in this life? Or would he rather die than see him? Rong Yu didn't dare to face him and just tightened his fists, saying, I don't want to hear it. But Nan Xi persisted, if you don't listen, I'll write you a divorce letter. Rong Yu's face changed, complex emotions surfacing, but he didn't hear the words he expected. Instead, Nan Xi shook his feet. My body is uncomfortable. Help me put on my socks. Seeing Rong Yu didn't move, Nan Xi acted coquettishly, leaning closer. My lord, my feet are cold. Rong Yu took a deep breath, silently squatting down to put socks on Nan Xi. Nan Xi stared at his perfect profile. Such a powerful war god, a king who made all the officials and ministers of the court submit, was now willingly serving him. How blind was he in his past life to reject him so completely? Nan Xi softly called him, Rong Yu. Rong Yu silently looked up, wondering what sarcastic words would come out of that beautiful mouth. However, the delicate face gradually enlarged before his eyes, until it was close to his lips. Rong Yu froze, his entire body stiffening. After a light peck, Nan Xi turned and asked, My lord, you have such a noble status, and you are so handsome. Why are you so obsessed with me? Rong Yu just continued putting on his shoes, not answering. He felt that Nan Xi was acting strange today. But under Nan Xi's persistent questioning, he finally said, You're not a crooked tree. Just as Nan Xi was about to continue questioning him, Xiang, the personal attendant, hurriedly reported that second Miss Nan Yu had arrived. Rong Yu's face instantly turned cold. He immediately stood up, preparing to leave. Nan Xi remained calm. Just in time, he then gestured for Rong Yu to lower his head. Rong Yu looked at Nan Xi tenderly. Nan Xi took a light breath, and quickly kissed Rong Yu's neck. Rong Yu froze again. Before he could react, Nan Xi walked towards the door with a smile, not forgetting to tease him. My lord's lips are so cold. I like it. After saying this, he hummed a tune and left. Rong Yu stood rooted to the spot, as if frozen. After a while, he slowly raised his hand, touching his lips, his heart in turmoil. What does he mean? Xiang beside him also looked bewildered. What happened to young master? He actually took the initiative to kiss the lord. He was Rong Yu, the Prince Regent and Grand Marshal of the entire Qing dynasty. Powerful, ruthless, and untouchable. Yet, he couldn't obtain the affection of the one he loved. He indulged him and protected him with his life. Yet, he colluded with the vile Qing Shu and Nan Yu to plot against him. Only at the last moment of his life did he realize his foolishness and Rong Yu's true feelings. Reborn, his intelligence increased significantly. Not only would he turn the tables, he would also expose the vile couple. After teasing Rong Yu, Nan Xi went out to greet his younger sister and her man. As soon as the siblings met, Nan Yu anxiously asked if the Prince Regent had mistreated him. He's a ruthless killer. Qing Shu told me you must endure. Nan Xi sneered inwardly. In his past life, it was because he listened to Nan Yu and Qing Shu's lies that he met such a tragic end. Now, Nan Yu just wanted to use him to shed her illegitimate status and enter the family. When Nan Xi was trapped in the Prince Regent's manor in his past life, Nan Yu used his name to swindle a large sum of money from their mother, and even sold the servants of the Cheng manor to brothels. Compared to his own fervent loyalty being repaid with betrayal, Nan Xi felt both pathetic and ridiculous. But on the surface, he remained calm, saying, "The Prince Regent treats me very well." Nan Yu became anxious and started sowing discord. "The Prince Regent forced you into the manor. Qing Shu loves you so deeply. How can this be called good?" Nan Xi knew what Nan Yu was thinking, but it wasn't time to expose her yet. He wanted to avenge his past life, along with the interest. He then asked, "Nan Yu, what did Qing Shu ask you to tell me?" Nan Yu put on a pitiful expression. "Qing Shu wants me to acknowledge my ancestry soon, so I can help you arrange your future." Nan Xi understood. "So, my sister is begging me now," Nan Yu shamelessly said, "it's all for Qing Shu. By arranging his future, he can better help you." She then slandered the Prince Regent a few more times. Nan Xi moved closer to Nan Yu and asked, "Since it's for Qing Shu, why did you harm me, sister?" Before Nan Yu could react, Nan Xi pulled out a handkerchief from his sleeve. "Do you recognize this, sister?" Nan Yu stammered, "Isn't this what Qing Shu gave you for self-defense?" Xiang, who was secretly watching, was furious. Young master's previous actions were indeed an act. He even hid a handkerchief. Rong Yu, however, remained calm. Nan Xi slowly approached Nan Yu and whispered, "Who said this hairpin was for self-defense? This clearly shows my sister wants to assassinate me." Nan Yu quickly backed away. He felt Nan Xi was acting strangely today. Nan Xi smiled faintly, then pricked herself with the hairpin. With a look of indignation, she questioned Nan Yu, "Sister, do you want to kill me?" Nan Yu, still in shock, didn't react. Xiang nearby was also dumbfounded. What was this new act? Just as he was about to ask his master, he found only an afterimage beside him. Rong Yu swiftly kicked Nan Yu to the ground, then turned to Nan Xi, "Are you all right?" He grasped Nan Xi's arm with concern. Nan Xi instantly felt reassured, "It's just a small scratch, I'm fine." But Rong Yu insisted on treating her like a princess, even ordering Xiang to summon the physician. Xiang felt utterly bewildered. Miss Nan had feigned injury and framed Nan Yu, yet the prince acted as if he were blind. Nan Xi leaned against Rong Yu's embrace. "It's just a minor scratch. There's no need to trouble the physician." Rong Yu carried Nan Xi to the bed. Nan Xi asked, "You saw what happened in the garden. Don't you want to know why?" Rong Yu replied, "I only care that you're hurt. The reason doesn't matter. Let's treat the wound first." Nan Xi persisted, "Don't you find my behavior today strange?" Rong Yu affectionately stroked her head, you, different from everyone else. Now, let's treat the wound." Nan Xi felt a warmth she had never experienced before. Acting coquettishly, she said her clothes were difficult to remove, and asked Rong Yu to help her undress. Nan Xi gazed intently at Rong Yu, recalling the events of her past life. She vowed to protect Rong Yu and make those who had wronged them pay. With this in mind, she held Rong Yu's hand and asked if she could return to the Xiang mansion tomorrow to handle some matters. Xiang suddenly barged in, accusing Nan Xi of wanting to escape. "The prince treats you so well, yet you repay him with such deceit." Rong Yu glared at him, silencing him. Nan Xi seriously explained that she had poor eyesight before, which was why she chose Rong Yu over Jiyu Qingshu. In her past life, Nan Xi and Jiyu Qingshu were supposedly in love, but she was forcibly taken into the prince's manor by Prince Rong Yu. Yet, instead of being angry, she injured herself to expose her supposed lover's betrayal, because in her past life, she was manipulated by both Jiyu Qingshu and Nan Yu. It was then she realized the truth about Prince Rong Yu. Now, reborn, she will not only protect Rong Yu, but also destroy those who wronged them. So, when she heard Xiang's accusation, Nan Xi solemnly agreed, saying her poor eyesight in the past led her to choose Rong Yu. Xiang was stunned. He thought Miss Nan must have lost her mind. But if that was so, why did she still want to leave? Nan Xi explained her family situation. Her mother was the widowed daughter of a wealthy merchant. Her father used her mother's wealth to climb the social ladder and become the city magistrate. However, after gaining power, her father took numerous concubines. Now, both the concubines and their daughters were vying for her mother's position. She needed to return and protect her mother from being bullied. Xiang couldn't help but curse, "That city magistrate is a scoundrel. We can't let those women take over." But then he realized, what about our prince if you leave? Rong Yu knew about Nan Xi's family situation. The city magistrate's power. ultimately stemmed from his wife's family's wealth. He understood Nan Xi's concerns. Nan Xi mentioned she lived in Jinzhen courtyard in the Xiang mansion, and Rong Yu could visit her anytime. Xiang scoffed. Is Miss Nan suggesting our prince sneak into the Xiang mansion like a lovesick thief? Rong Yu gave him a cold look, and Xiang quickly shut up. Nan Xi continued, saying her current status in the prince's manor was ambiguous. If Rong Yu wished, he could formally propose marriage to her family. Rong Yu was taken aback. He hadn't expected Nan Xi to say this. Why would she suddenly agree to his proposal? Xiang was even more puzzled. This was too sudden. He figured Miss Nan must be delirious. Nan Xi, aware of Rong Yu's doubts, reassured him, "You are so powerful and kind to me. There's no reason for me to like anyone else. I won't repeat my mother's tragedy." Xiang, remembering the injured Nuanu, asked if she should be sent back to the Xiang mansion. Rong Yu replied indifferently, "Why send her there? She doesn't live there." Nan Xi inquired about Nuanu's injuries. Xiang knew that Rong Yu had held back considerably when kicking Nuanu, for Nan Xi's sake. Otherwise, that kick would have been devastating. But he had to defend his master. The prince was worried about Miss Nan and acted impulsively. Nan Xi made a mental note. Since she's injured, sent her to Jiyu Qingshu's residence for now. Everyone knew that Nan Xi and Jiyu Qingshu were supposedly in love, but she was forcibly taken by Prince Rong Yu. This allowed Jiyu Qingshu to slander Rong Yu and portray himself as a lovesick gentleman. Nan Xi instructed Xiang to send Nuanu to Jiyu Qingshu and spread rumors that Jiyu Qingshu, driven by jealousy, had sent Nuanu to assassinate her. Xiang instantly understood. Framing Nuanu for attempted murder and sending her to Jiyu Qingshu's residence. The implications were clear. Rong Yu also understood. Nan Xi was framing Jiyu Qingshu. Today, Nan Xi was truly unpredictable. She injured herself to expose her sister, and revealed the betrayal of her supposed lover, all because in her past life, she was manipulated by these two, leading to her downfall. This time, she would turn the tables, and seek revenge. Nan Xi instructed Xiang to deliver Nuanu to Jiyu Qingshu, and spread the rumor that Jiyu Qingshu, consumed by jealousy, ordered Nuanu to assassinate her. Xiang thought it was absurd. No one will believe that. This is the prince's manor. Jiyu Qingshu wouldn't dare to have Nuanu attack directly. Nan Xi was unconcerned. Just spread the rumor, regardless of whether they believe it or not. Rong Yu also ordered Xiang to comply. Xiang didn't hesitate any longer. His master had spoken, so he would obey. He had never liked Jiyu Qingshu anyway. He was neither as handsome nor as noble as his master. As dusk settled, Nan Xi leaned back in the bathtub, sorting through her thoughts. She thought of Jiyu Qingshu, that scum. Just you wait. Scenes from her past life surfaced. When she was 15, she was captivated by Jiyu Qingshu's sweet words and gentle demeanor. He seduced her with romantic poetry, while simultaneously deceiving her, claiming Prince Rong Yu was a threat to the realm, and that if he gained power, the people would suffer. The naive Nan Xi believed that the officials were all treacherous, but Jiyu Qingshu shamelessly exploited her. He not only used her family's wealth to support the third prince, but also made her spy on Prince Rong Yu, promising her fame and fortune in return. Jiyu Qingshu used Nan Xi to help the third prince ascend to the throne, while he himself became the emperor's favorite, gaining immense power. After securing his position, the third prince plotted to eliminate Prince Rong Yu. Jiyu Qingshu then revealed his true colors, ordering Nuanu to kill Nan Xi. Slandering her as a promiscuous woman, Nan Xi would never forget the inferno that engulfed the prince's manor. Nuanu's hairpin pierced her chest without mercy. At the last moment, Prince Rong Yu, covered in blood, arrived. Like a god descending from the heavens, he knocked Nuanu away. Although exhausted and bleeding profusely, he shielded Nan Xi with his body. At that moment, Nan Xi finally realized Prince Rong Yu's true feelings for her, and the current outcome was entirely his own doing. Without his schemes, how could that insidious third prince be a match for Rong Yu? But until the last moment, this person he schemed against was still shrouded in mystery. The sudden onslaught of countless hidden weapons was simply unstoppable. No matter how skilled he was still only flesh and blood. Tears unconsciously flowed from Nan Xi's eyes. Truly, an unpleasant memory. Fortunately, many tragedies had yet to occur. Although the third prince had just ascended the throne, he was at odds with a powerful minister. At this time, for him to even think about settling scores with Jiyu Qingshu and Rong Yu was a pipe dream. As for the assassination attempt Jiyu Qingshu spoke of, let it end here. Nan Xi muttered to himself, Jiyu Qingshu, for the rest of your life, just be the person Jiyu Qingshu should be. A maid holding Nan Xi's shoes entered, reminding him, "Young master, what if you catch a cold walking barefoot?" Just as she finished speaking, Rong Yu, dressed in black, entered. The maidservant respectfully excused herself. Rong Yu, without a word, picked Nan Xi up, saying, "We haven't finished our calligraphy practice. You can only rest after you're done." Nan Xi was stunned. It took him this long to react to what had said earlier. What a delayed reaction. The young man thought he had been reborn, but he didn't expect it was just a dream woven by the man. In that dream, the man cherished him dearly, yet he betrayed and schemed against him. In the end, he even failed to save him, dying tragically by a hidden blade through the heart. And he, Nan Xi, was stabbed to death by Nuanu, a vicious, bloodthirsty dog. Reborn, he swore to make the pay and turn him to ashes. At the same time, he must protect that man for the rest of his life. But he suddenly realized that this man's love for his younger brother seemed a bit inexplicable. Seeing Rong Yu's serious expression, Nan Xi couldn't help but tease him, "Do you like me?" "Finally, you admit it," Nan Xi thought. In fact, Nan Xi knew in his heart. If Rong Yu didn't like him, why would he have saved him in his previous life? He wasn't stupid. Rong Yu didn't say any sweet words, but just hummed softly. Nan Xi pressed further, "Why? Besides a pretty face, I have nothing else to offer." "What do you like about me?" Rong Yu simply said, "You are good." These three seemingly perfunctory words felt genuine to Nan Xi. Although Rong Yu didn't say much, it was more sincere than Jiu Qingshu's flowery yet empty words. Moreover, this man, in his past life, had sacrificed himself to save him, willingly using his flesh and blood to shield him from the onslaught of hidden weapons. However, Nan Xi still wondered when Rong Yu had fallen for him. He just felt that his love came a bit out of the blue. But, immersed in happiness, he didn't think too much about it and closed his eyes, falling into a deep sleep. Looking at the sleeping Nan Xi, Rong Yu finally saw some effect from his reversed curse. Nania was still unconscious when he was delivered to Jiu Qingshu's residence. The area outside Gus' residence was surrounded by layers upon layers of people. Xiang stood at the gate, berating Jiu Qingshu for his duplicity, saying, "You claim to love Nan Xi deeply, yet you despise Nuanu and even had him assassinate Qingji. Jiu Qingshu, give us an explanation." The onlookers murmured amongst themselves, "Truly, you can never really know a person." Xiang, having made his point, turned and left. Jiu Qingshu was stunned. The current situation was completely different from what he had planned. He handed Nuanu over to a subordinate, ordering him to find a doctor and get to the bottom of this. Jiu Qingshu was now apprehensive. Why would Prince Regent send Nuanu here? Could he have discovered his connection with Nuanu? He quickly dismissed the thought. This must be a trap. He needed to explain himself to the Regent's manor immediately. At this time, Nan Xi was also preparing to return to the Regent's manor. Outside, Rong Yu had already arranged guards and a carriage. Rong Yu carefully supported Nan Xi as they walked out of the manor, asking worriedly, "Should we wait until your hand heals before returning?" Nan Xi shook his head. Returning now would achieve the best results. He then embraced Rong Yu. "I won't leave you, Your Highness. I am yours, in life and in death." Before he could finish, Rong Yu interrupted, "Don't say such things. Whoever dares to harm you, I will make them pay dearly." Nan Xi happily agreed. Heaven had given him a second chance. He would seek justice for their past selves. However, seeing the rows of guards, Nan Xi felt it was a bit excessive. "Isn't this a bit too much? Let's keep half," he suggested. Rong Yu, after a moment of silence, agreed. Arriving back at the Cheng Manor, the guards at the gate were stunned to see Nan Xi step out of the carriage. "Young miss, you're back," the guards hurriedly announced. "I'll inform Master Cheng immediately." "Young Master Jiu is also here." Hearing that Jiu Qingshu was there, Nan Xi casually inquired. After confirming, Nan Xi said, "No need to announce. I'll go in and surprise my parents. Jiu Qingshu, for everything you've done to me, I will return it to you bit by bit." The scumbag, having the Cheng Manor's legitimate daughter, still insisted on messing around with the illegitimate daughter. Not only did he deceive and scheme against her, he even slandered her in front of her parents. However, the legitimate daughter's reaction was unexpected. When Nan Xi returned to the Cheng Manor, Jiu Qingshu was already busy sowing discord, even shifting the blame to the Prince Regent. "Nan Xi is my fiancée. How could I possibly instruct Nuanu to assassinate her? Madam Cheng, please tell me, how is Nan Xi? Are her injuries serious?" He then turned to Cheng Xiang. "Xia was injured at the Regent's Manor, and you did nothing." Everyone knew that Nan Xi was taken to the Regent's Manor by force, but out of fear, they didn't dare to offend the Prince Regent. At that moment, Nan Xi arrived at the door. Naturally, he overheard their conversation. He couldn't help but despise Jiyu Qingshu's shamelessness. He felt even more heartbroken for his mother. She was the only one who truly cared for him. In the past, he was only focused on Jiyu Qingshu, forgetting that his mother also had a hard time. He heard Xiang say, "Should we go to the regent's manor to demand her return?" Jiyu Qingshu panicked slightly, saying, "The Prince Regent is not to be trifled with. Please reconsider." Inwardly, he thought, if Nan Xi leaves the regent's manor, I won't be able to get any information from the Prince Regent. But Madame Cheng, worried about her daughter, angrily retorted, "Reconsider what? Xia's life is almost gone." Jiyu Qingshu hastily denied any wrongdoing, saying he was afraid of provoking the Prince Regent, which would make things worse for Nan Xi. Madame Cheng's face grew colder. She never thought highly of Jiyu Qingshu, but she couldn't dissuade Nan Xi before. Now, she sternly warned him, "If you dare harm Xia, I won't let you go." Jiyu Qingshu broke out in a cold sweat, guaranteeing he would never harm Nan Xi. Just as he finished speaking, Nan Xi's sarcastic voice came from the doorway, "Really?" Nan Xi's appearance shocked everyone. The Prince Regent actually let him return. Madame Cheng was overjoyed, and rushed over to check on Nan Xi's injuries. Jiyu Qingshu was still reeling from Nan Xi's return. He only cared about how Nan Xi came back. Nan Xi turned to him and asked, "What's wrong? Are you surprised I came back?" He then turned to Xiang. "I heard father wants to bring Nuanu and her mother into the manor. Of course I had to come back and see." Xiang stammered, asking how Nan Xi knew about this. Nan Xi said Nuanu had come to the regent's manor to gloat. "I just argued with him a bit, and he pulled a knife on me. Thankfully, the Prince Regent saved me." Madame Cheng was furious, "That little wretch dared to stab you. I won't spare him." She then heard from Nan Xi that Nuanu had been sent to Gus' residence, and was now under Jiyu Qingshu's care. Jiyu Qingshu feigned innocence, "Nuanu is injured. Why would he be sent to my residence?" Nan Xi retorted directly, "Where else? He's certainly not welcome at the Nan Manor." Jiyu Qingshu was sweating profusely. He didn't understand why Nan Xi's personality had changed so drastically. Madame Cheng was also surprised by Nan Xi's attitude towards Jiyu Qingshu. He no longer showed the previous admiration. Good riddance, she thought. Jiyu Qingshu is no good anyway. Seeing their surprised expressions, Nan Xi explained, "I'm fine. I just didn't want you to worry, so I came back for a few days." He then gestured towards the two guards. "The Prince Regent even sent people to protect me." Jiyu Qingshu instantly understood, and a wave of jealousy washed over him. So it's all an act for those guards. No wonder Nan Xi is acting like this, he thought. Jiyu Qingshu turned back to Nan Xi with sweet words, "My dear, you've suffered. I'm so useless." Nan Xi cut him off, "You are useless. Let's break off the engagement." How promiscuous were the young masters of ancient noble families. This young man was two-timing. He had an engagement with the legitimate daughter of the Cheng Manor, yet was involved with the illegitimate daughter. But the legitimate daughter fell in love with the Prince Regent, and actively requested to break off the engagement with the scumbag. When Nan Xi proposed to break off the engagement, Jiyu Qingshu's face was filled with disbelief. He still thought Nan Xi was being coerced by the Prince Regent. Even Nan Xi's mother found it unbelievable. Just a few days ago, he was head over heels for Jiyu Qingshu. How could everything change so quickly? Jiyu Qingshu panicked inwardly. He couldn't figure out if Nan Xi was being forced or if he was sincere. He started to declare his love again. Looking at Jiyu Qingshu's fake affection, Nan Xi felt disgusted. In the past, he would have been moved to tears, but now, Jiyu Qingshu could keep dreaming. Nan Xi's rejection was resolute. He then excused himself to talk privately with his mother. Jiyu Qingshu tried to follow, but the two guards gave him a warning glare, stopping him in his tracks. Xiang also noticed Nan Xi's change, asking cautiously, "Nan Xi seems different." Jiyu Qingshu still refused to believe that Nan Xi had changed, insisting, "Xia must be threatened by the Prince Regent. He and Yua are so in love. How could Yua?" Xiang looked at Jiyu Qingshu meaningfully, "Don't tell me you're two-timing." Jiyu Qingshu broke into a cold sweat, claiming he only loved Nan Xi and had no romantic feelings for Nuanu. After walking a short distance, Nan Xi instructed Yingxuang to spread the news that young Miss Nan and Jiyu Qingshu had mutually agreed to break off their engagement, and to make it clear it had nothing to do with the Prince Regent. Yingxuang was puzzled, but young Master Jiyu didn't agree. Nan Xi sneered, "If he didn't object, I'd consider that agreement. The Cheng Manor's legitimate daughter breaking off the engagement, it wasn't up to him to agree or disagree." Back in the room, Madame Cheng asked Nan Xi why he suddenly wanted to break off the engagement. Nan Xi reassured her, "It's a long story. Just know that I now hate Jiyu Qingshu." As a mother, Madame Cheng only cared about her daughter's well-being. "Is the Prince Regent as fierce and cruel as the rumors say? Has he mistreated you?" Mentioning Rong Yu, Nan Xi's face lit up. "The Prince Regent is very good to me, and I want to marry him." Madame Cheng was stunned. Marry the Prince Regent? He's of such high status, he'll definitely have a harem. Nan Xi smiled slyly. "The Prince Regent won't. He could have any woman he wants, but he hasn't taken any concubines all these years. That kind of self-control is rare." Madame Cheng voiced everyone's question. "You loved Jiyu Qingshu for 4 years. How did you suddenly change your mind?" Nan Xi said frankly, "How can Jiyu Qingshu compare to the Prince Regent? The Prince Regent is handsome, capable, and dedicated." Jiyu Qingshu, hiding nearby, overheard their conversation. He finally realized Nan Xi's true feelings. Angrily, he turned and left. Madame Cheng was still worried. The Prince Regent holds great power. The Emperor is wary of him. What if something happens in the future? You'll be implicated. But Nan Xi was unconcerned. Rong Yu treats me well. Anyone who wants to scheme against him better think twice. Even if something does happen, I'm willing to die with him. Madame Cheng was shocked, reminding Nan Xi to be careful. Nan Xi knew that as long as he wasn't Rong Yu's weakness, it wouldn't be easy for anyone to scheme against them. Suddenly, a girl's voice came from outside, demanding money from Madame Cheng to buy jewelry for Princess Baoling's birthday banquet tomorrow. Nan Xi's face darkened. That's Nan Jiao's voice. A concubine's daughter dares to yell at Madame. She treats my mother like what? Asking for money as she pleases. It's time to teach her a lesson. The concubine's daughter, spoiled and arrogant, brazenly demanded money from Madame. She didn't expect to be stopped by the guard at the door. Just as she was about to reprimand the guard, the legitimate daughter emerged from the room, ready to put her in her place. While Nan Xi and his mother were chatting, Nan Jiao suddenly appeared at the door, demanding tails. Nan Xi's face darkened instantly. A concubine's daughter acting so arrogantly. It seemed she needed a lesson. Madame Cheng was dismissive. It's just some money. I'll give it to her. But Nan Xi was serious. How can a servant demand tails? Even if mother had a mountain of gold, it wouldn't be enough for them. Madame Cheng reassured Nan Xi, the money I give them is just pocket money. The real assets are all yours. Nan Xi felt touched. His mother truly loved him the most. Cheng Xiang had been doting on Li Shi all these years, and Madame Cheng managed all the household expenses. So Madame Cheng also despised them, but no matter how much she despised them, she couldn't be too harsh. Nan Xi felt disgusted. A dignified Cheng Xiang using his wife's money to support so many concubines. This kind of man, besides this scumbag father, was Jiyu Qingshu. Using Nan Xi's money to flirt with Nan Yu, Nan Jiao happily ran to the door, but Ying Yu suddenly threw a dagger at her feet. Nan Jiao was startled and angry. Who are you? Ying Yu retorted, it doesn't matter who I am. You just need to know what I'm holding. Nan Jiao scoffed, do you know who I am? Do you want to die? Ying Yu remained expressionless. Aren't you just a concubine's daughter? Acting so high and mighty. I thought you were a princess. I advise you to behave, or you'll face the consequences. Nan Jiao gritted her teeth in anger, about to lash out at Ying Yu. At that moment, Nan Xi walked out. Nan Jiao, who gave you the guts to cause a scene in Madame's courtyard? Have you forgotten your place? Nan Jiao was startled. She didn't expect Nan Xi to be back. Nan Xi confronted her directly, coming to my mother for money. Does my mother owe you anything? Nan Jiao faltered, Madame manages the household finances. Shouldn't I ask her for money? Nan Xi reminded her of her status. Since you know Madame is in charge, you should ask politely. Infuriated, Nan Jiao retorted, Madame comes from a humble background. Her status is even lower than my mother's. My mother might be a concubine, but at least she's from a noble family. Ying Yu scoffed, what did you say? Nan Jiao, intimidated by Ying Yu's aura, stammered, this is the Cheng manner. Don't do anything reckless. Nan Xi calmly said, since you think concubine Li is so noble, go ask her for money. He then ordered Ying Yu to throw Nan Jiao out. Seeing Ying Yu draw his dagger, Nan Jiao panicked, and ran away, shouting, I'll tell my mother. Just you wait. After hearing Nan Jiao's tearful complaint, Li Shi was shocked. What confused her even more was that Nan Xi, who was supposedly taken away by the Prince Regent, had suddenly returned. Nan Xi speculated that the Prince Regent had abandoned Nan Xi. She then complained that Nan Xi didn't respect her mother, calling her a concubine and such. Li Shi believed Nan Xi was just putting on an act. When she sees Jiu Qingshu, she'll be all over him again, she thought. Nan Jiao then complained about not getting the money to buy jewelry for Princess Baoling's banquet. Li Shi, stroking her hair, decided to deal with Madame Cheng. Confidently, she reassured Nan Jiao, "Don't worry. Mother gave birth to the manor's only son, and he's quite capable. I can certainly handle a first wife. I'll get you the tails, no tails." Cheng Xiang dotes on his concubine and neglects his wife. He looks down on his wife's humble background. However, the legitimate daughter returns, and puts him in his place with money. In the Cheng manor, Li Shi complained tearfully, Nan Jiao finally had a chance to interact with those noble ladies, but Nan Xi's return ruined everything. How could Madame treat her own daughter like this? She then started her usual tactic of playing the victim, wondering if she had offended the young miss somehow. Cheng Xiang was furious. The first wife of the Cheng manor couldn't even tolerate this much. He then ordered Lu Fei to ask Madame Cheng for tails, saying he needed it. A smug smile appeared on Li Shi's face. Xiang Ye is so good to me, she thought. Cheng Xiang tried to act concerned. Don't worry. I'll get the money. But don't mention money matters in front of me again. I find it vulgar. Li Shi flattered him, praising his refined taste and calling herself a vulgar person who needed his guidance. Cheng Xiang was pleased. As they were enjoying their moment, Lu Fei rushed back to report. The young miss is injured, and Madame is in a bad mood. She refuses to see anyone. Cheng Xiang asked anxiously, is the young miss seriously injured? But Li Shi questioned, do you really believe that Nuanu injured the young miss? Even if Nuanu entered the Cheng manor, she would still have to live under Li Shi's thumb. What reason did she have to assassinate Nan Xi? Cheng Xiang suddenly realized, could it be Nan Xi framed Nuanu? He angrily rushed to check on Nan Xi's injuries, but everything was within Nan Xi's calculations. Without money, Li Shi couldn't throw a tantrum, and his father would definitely come looking for him. Li Shi still felt Nan Xi was different, asking him what had happened recently. Thinking of his 4 years of unrequited love for a scumbag, Nan Xi asked his mother if she still had feelings for his unfaithful father. Of course, she didn't, but if she divorced him, everything in the Cheng manor would fall into the wrong hands. Even if she no longer had feelings for Cheng Xiang, she couldn't let others benefit. Nan Xi now understood. His mother's heart was also broken by his father. From now on, he could act without any reservations. A moment later, Cheng Xiang barged in, asking if Madame and the young miss were inside. Li Shi put on an air of authority. Ying Shuang and Ying Yu are so ill-mannered. They didn't even greet the master. Ying Yu retorted, the young miss didn't instruct me to open the door. Li Shi was furious. Li Shi stared at him in disbelief. Do you know who you are talking to? Nan Xi emerged from the house. What's with all the commotion? Have you no manners? Li Shi chuckled irritably. Are you referring to me, young mistress? Nan Xi retorted, concubine Li, you have some self-awareness, I see. Steward Shun was furious. Young mistress, is this how you speak to your elders? Have you no respect? Nan Xi addressed his point directly, speaking of the distinction between a legitimate wife and a concubine. She asked Li Shi if she still remembered the proper conduct and decorum expected of a concubine. Li Shi was speechless, unable to refute Nan Xi's words. Turning to Cheng Shang, Li Shi tugged at his sleeve. Master, look at her. How dare she speak to me, her elder, like that? Nan Xi remained composed. Concubine Li is a concubine. I'll call her concubine if I please, and if I don't, she should address herself as such. Cheng Shang was exasperated. Yuan Shi. Get your daughter out here. Inwardly, he reproached Yuan Shi. A daughter raised by a merchant's daughter is indeed ill-mannered. Nan Xi continued, addressing the issue of how children of concubines should address the legitimate wife. A concubine's children can only call their mother aunt. That's the difference between a wife and a concubine. Father, as Prime Minister, you wouldn't want to be the subject of ridicule due to such domestic matters, would you? Enraged, Cheng Shang ordered Nan Xi to kneel in the ancestral hall. I've never seen such an insolent young mistress. Her mother used money to sway Cheng Shang. After leaving, the maidservant even dared to teach the esteemed county lord a lesson. Cheng Shang, self-righteous, was furious at Nan Xi's arrogance and ordered her to be punished. Yu Yin stepped in front of Nan Xi. Absolutely not. I have the prince's orders to protect the young mistress. She must not be bullied. If the prince finds out, neither Xiang nor I will be spared. Hearing Yuyin mention the prince, Xiang cowered, unable to retort. Li Xi emerged from the inner chambers. She asked Nan Xi coldly, "Are you here to beg for money again?" Xiang was enraged. "Beg? Am I not entitled to the household funds? Give me tails immediately." Yuanxi replied coldly, "I wonder how much silver you've already taken. I'd gladly give it to you, but is there any left?" Xiang sneered. "Always so concerned with money. You truly are a vulgar merchant's daughter, unfit for elegant society." Yuanxi rolled her eyes. "Since you find it so vulgar, don't come asking for money again. Your greed stains my elegance." She then invited Nan Xi to go shopping, her tone laced with sarcasm. Nan Xi asked Yuyin to accompany them, leaving Xiang behind to prevent Li Xi from causing trouble. Failing to get any money, Li Xi turned to Xiang. "What about Jiajia's dowry?" Xiang, feeling insulted, snapped at her to handle it herself. Nan Xi chuckled. "Who can truly remain untouched by worldly matters? If you're so noble, why not become a nun?" Riding in a luxurious carriage, Nan Xi enjoyed her first outing in a long time. She pointed to a shop. "That's Handling Studio, which sells stationery. Let's go there." Yuanxi glanced at Nan Xi. "Are you buying another gift for Jiyu Qingshu?" Nan Xi shook her head. "No, it's not for him." Yuanxi wondered, could it be for Prince Xiang? Inside Morbao Studio, Zhong Gui was assisting a customer when Nan Xi arrived. A shrill voice suddenly rang out. "Nan Xi, aren't you supposed to be at Prince Xiang's mansion? Did he throw you out?" Yuanxi, thinking it was Nangxi's friend, scolded the girl for her rudeness. The young lady sneered. "I assent this the esteemed Madame Yuanxi, a merchant's daughter. I understand your concern. Your daughter just lost her reputation and was abandoned. You must dote on her, lest she does something drastic." Her maidservants echoed her sentiments. Nan Xi remained calm while Yuyin stepped forward, shielding her. "If it isn't County Lord Baolan. Are you so lacking in affection that you feel the need to bully my mistress?" Baolan's face flushed. "How dare you lecture me? I'll tear your mouth apart." She raised her hand to strike Yuyin. Yuyin swiftly caught her wrist and slapped her across the face, stunning everyone present. A maidservant dared to slap the county lord, simply for insulting her mistress. Baolan trembled, shocked by the audacity of a mere servant. Yuyin introduced herself. "I am Yingzhue, one of Prince Xiang's elite guards, assigned to protect Mistress Nan Xi. I can not only slap you, but kill you, and your parents wouldn't dare retaliate." Baolan paled. She thought Nan Xi had been abandoned, but she was under the prince's protection. Yuyin continued. "Mistress Nan Xi is the future Princess Xiang, the prince's beloved. The prince has decreed that anyone who disrespects Mistress Nan Xi will face the consequences." Yuanxi was surprised. Did the prince truly say that? Nan Xi was also taken aback, but she admitted it sounded like something Rong Yu would do. Baolan, her face throbbing, dared not speak. Yuyin warned her against further provocation. Baolan burst into tears and fled, crying, "I won't do it again." The drama ended abruptly. Yuanxi praised Yuyin's boldness. Yuyin bowed. "Protecting the young mistress is my duty." Nan Xi smiled at Yuyin and was about to speak when a familiar voice called out, "Xinmai." Nan Xi turned to see Jiyu Qingshu approaching. He was displeased by her formality and wanted to speak with her privately. Nan Xi refused. "It's inappropriate. Besides, our engagement is broken. I won't pursue the matter of Nanyu's attack. Please don't bother me anymore." The onlookers murmured. The rumors of the broken engagement were true. And Nanyu's attack was indeed orchestrated by Jiyu Qingshu. Jiyu Qingshu feigned distress. "Xinmai, how can you discard our 4-year relationship so easily?" Nan Xi thought his acting was impressive, but she could play the game too. Turning away, she said with feigned sadness, "Jiyu Qingshu, I was young and naive. Please forget me." Jiyu Qingshu reached for her hand, but she pulled away. "We are not suited for each other." He began spouting romantic nonsense. "Xinmai, my heart beats only for you. Without you." Nan Xi interrupted him. "Without me, you still have Nanu. She's carrying your child. I hope you treat her well." Jiyu Qingshu was stunned. The crowd gasped. This was juicy gossip. Jiyu Qingshu stammered, trying to explain. "Xinmai, how can you say such things?" Nan Xi retorted, "If you don't believe me, ask a physician." However, the prince injured her during the attack, so I'm not sure if the child survived. You should go back and take care of her. Nan Xi hadn't lied about the pregnancy, nor had she deliberately framed Jiyu Qingshu and Nuanu. But Jiyu Qingshu hadn't expected her to turn the tables on him in public. As the crowd grew, Jiyu Qingshu broke into a cold sweat. He stammered, asking Nan Xi to reconsider the engagement, and fled in a panic. The onlookers were now convinced of the rumors. He must be guilty. He's two-timing her. What a scoundrel. The customers in Morbau's studio began to gossip. The news would spread like wildfire. In her past life, shortly after Nuanu entered the Chengshang household, she and Jiyu Qingshu confessed to Chengshang about their relationship and impending marriage due to the pregnancy. Jiyu Qingshu still became Chengshang's prized son-in-law. This time, Nan Xi wouldn't allow Nuanu into the Chengshang household. She wanted to see what Jiyu Qingshu would do, knowing Nuanu couldn't marry into the family. Engaged to the eldest Miss Chengshang, yet impregnating the second Miss, only to be exposed by the eldest Miss. The crowd grew larger, and Jiyu Qingshu fled, making excuses. This further fueled the rumors. He pretends to be devoted, but he's just a womanizer. Nan Xi recalled being confined in Prince Shizheng's mansion in her past life, helping Jiyu Qingshu seize control of the capital. She hadn't known he was involved with Nuanu. Chengshang had kept it a secret to protect the family's reputation. By the time she found out, Nanu's child was almost a month old. The crowd's attention turned to Nuanu. Imagine, not only did she injure Miss Nan Xi, but she also had an affair with Jiyu Qingshu. Disgusting. Nan Xi, who had poisoned Nuanu in her past life, corrected them. Nuanu is not the second Miss Chengshang. My father values his reputation, and would never allow a bastard into the family. A man sneered. Prime Minister Chengshang values his reputation. Indeed. As the emperor's favorite, he must maintain a clean image. Nan Xi smiled faintly and entered Morbau's studio. She understood the insinuation. A man who valued his reputation wouldn't allow a prostitute's child into his family. Stepping into the shop, Nan Xi's gaze fell upon the exquisite Yangtai hand warmer the shopkeeper had just described. The shopkeeper enthusiastically inquired what the young lady desired. Nan Shimu pondered. 500 taels of gold probably wouldn't suffice. Saying that aloud would surely frighten the shopkeeper to death. Better to keep a composed demeanor. The shopkeeper was momentarily taken aback. After all, this young lady had just broken off her engagement with Jiyu Qingshu. Why would she want a luxurious Dragon Phoenix Yangtai hand warmer? She couldn't help but ask, Miss, is this for your own use or as a gift? Nan Shimu replied frankly, a gift. As the shopkeeper retrieved the highest quality materials for packaging, Madame Nan watched Nan Shimu thoughtfully. With the Yangtai hand warmer wrapped, Nan Shimu asked Madame Nan, shall we go elsewhere? Madame Nan smiled brightly, of course. I promised you a whole day of shopping. Nan Shimu wasn't lacking for hand warmers. Buying more would be wasteful. But the wealthy Madame Nan disagreed. What's the point of earning money if you don't spend it? Even if you spend thousands of taels a day, it would still be enough. After all, the Liang family's businesses are all yours. Even your father can't touch them. Nan Shimu was inwardly touched. Madame Nan, noticing her daughter's concern, added, the household expenses are all from Jiulong and Yimao. If you don't like it, I won't give them any more money. Nan Shimu couldn't help but twitch the corner of her mouth. Her wealthy mother certainly had a unique way of speaking. The carriage stopped at a shop specializing in hand warmers and scented powders. Nan Shimu lifted the curtain and was about to disembark, when suddenly she spotted a familiar figure. Why would that person be here? Could it be? Nan Shimu hesitated, lowering the curtain and sitting back down. Madame Nan, noticing her daughter's unusual behavior, asked if she had seen someone she knew. Nan Shimu smiled, saying she'd suddenly remembered something and needed to visit Prince Shizheng's manor. Yinla worried that Nan Shimu wasn't enjoying her shopping trip, saying the prince wouldn't be angry, and she could continue browsing. Nan Shimu insisted she had important matters to discuss with Prince Shizheng and wasn't afraid of angering him. Yinla remarked that the prince would surely be delighted. Madame Nan, however, found this unbelievable. That the dignified Prince Shizheng would be overjoyed simply because Xia wanted to discuss something with him seemed too exaggerated. Once again, Bai Enyu fiercely protected her mistress, leaving a group of official wives speechless. If my lady speaks even a single word, your entire families will crawl out of here. The shop was frequented by high-ranking officials and influential figures. Nan Shimu, having just left the scumbag shed dumped, now encountered a group of snobbish official wives in the shop. This particular ink-making shop was renowned in the capital, It's wares only affordable to the wealthy elite. Nan Xi had previously wanted to buy a writing desk here, but hadn't had the chance when living at the Nan family estate. She wanted to see how good the desks were. Madame Nan readily agreed. Buying even 8 or 10 wouldn't be a problem. However, just as Nan Xi stepped inside, an acquaintance recognized them. Madame Nan, young Lady Nan. The greeting drew the attention of other official wives. One of the wives turned around with a feigned air of distress. Are you also here to choose a birthday gift for Princess Baoming? My Zuzu is having such a hard time deciding. Perhaps young Lady Nan could offer some advice. Zuzu, standing beside her mother, subtly reminded her, Mother, Princess Baoming didn't invite young Lady Nan. Madame Nan, sensing something amiss, furrowed her brow. Madame Lin quickly feigned an apology. Zuzu then brought up Nan Xi's confinement in Prince Shizheng's manor, saying, perhaps the princess eyesight isn't good. So she didn't send an invitation. It wasn't meant as a slight. Then, changing the subject, she asked, how did young Lady Nan get out? Could it be that Prince Shizheng has already lost interest in you? Watching these self-righteous women, Nan Xi was about to speak up, but Madame Nan stepped forward, blocking her. Nan Xi looked at her mother, puzzled. Mother, what are you doing? At this point, the other wives began to take sides. Madame Lin casually remarked, I heard young Lady Nan broke off her engagement with young Master Jiyu. Well, of course. Prince Shizheng is far superior to Jiyu Qingshu. Marrying him is quite a coup. Their words became increasingly malicious. Their insinuations were thinly veiled, their true intentions clear. Madame Nan, unimpressed by these gossiping wives, retorted, Miss Lin is quite prestigious, receiving an invitation from Princess Baoming. Minister Lin, having served 10 years to reach his current position, should indeed seize this opportunity to curry favor. With the princess, Madame Lin's face stiffened. What do you mean by that, Madame Nan? Are you implying Minister Lin is too old for further promotion? However, you two are currently slandering the Prime Minister's family. You're quite bold, aren't you? Madame Lin's heart lurched. Even though Madame Nan wasn't favored within the Prime Minister's household, she was still the Prime Minister's wife. Madame Lin had been so caught up in gossiping that she'd completely forgotten this. She hastily clasped her hands together, claiming she meant no harm. Madame Nan stated firmly, Prince Shizheng is powerful and influential, not someone the Nan family can afford to offend. Furthermore, there are people like Madame Lin spreading rumors, making it hard to believe Xia's reputation remains untarnished. Nan Xi felt a surge of comfort watching her mother orchestrate the situation. The discussions among the noble ladies of Fulilan about Madame Nan's background were now rendered speechless. Madame Nan indeed had the right to be confident. Which of your daughters here can compare to Xia? Is it higher status or greater wealth? Furthermore, Xia wasn't chased out by Prince Shizheng. The prince specifically sent someone to escort her back to the manor. Yin Yu, standing beside them, chimed in, raising a finger. The madam is right. Our prince has declared that Miss Nan Xi is the mistress of the Shizheng manor, the future Princess Shizheng. Anyone who dares to bully her will have to answer to Prince Shizheng himself. Turning to Nan Xi, she continued, those madams and young ladies from the Lin family were too unreasonable. Why don't we tell the prince to revoke their titles and expel them from the capital tomorrow? What do you think? Nan Xi replied calmly, do as you see fit. Madame Lin was about to beg for mercy, but Yin Yu didn't give her the chance. She asked, her nose in the air, wasn't it you who said our Miss Nan Xi was poor and clinging to the rich? Well, let me tell you, our prince loves that Miss Nan Xi is uninterested in wealth and refuses to fawn over him. Nan Xi inwardly chuckled. Yin Yu is so adorable. Madame Lin was now stammering, trying to explain that she meant no harm, and that Miss Nan Xi must not have received the invitation. Yin Yu retorted, our miss received the invitation long ago, and came here today to select gifts. Do you need our miss to offer you some advice? The noble ladies looked down on this merchant's wife. Just how rich could she be? The bracelet she casually purchased was something even the princess couldn't afford. The entire Chengshan manor's expenses were mere pocket change for her. She bought a jade bracelet. Miss Lin, who had just mocked Nan Xi, was instantly silenced by Madame Nan's imposing aura. Yin Yu also invoked Prince Shizheng's authority. Madame Lin, unable to withstand the pressure, hurriedly left with her daughter. Madame Nan felt a surge of triumph. I thought they were so capable. The moment they heard about Prince Shizheng, their faces turned pale. Serves them right. Nan Xi felt a bittersweet warmth in her heart, her eyes welling up. It felt good to be protected. Yin noticed Nan Xi's emotions and immediately became anxious. Miss, are you feeling wronged? I'll tell the prince immediately, and have him deal with these unreasonable madams. Nan Xi wiped her tears and comforted Yin. It's all right, I'm just a little touched. Yin winked mischievously, just a little touched by this small scene. If the prince tries a little harder, won't Miss pledge yourself to him? Nan Xi, unaware of Yin's teasing, thought only of repaying the kindness shown to her in this new life. Now emboldened, Madame Nan led Nan Xi to look at some jade hairpins. This one would surely look exquisite on you. Madame Nan didn't even ask the price, only how Nan Xi liked it. The shopkeeper chimed in, this hairpin is the treasure of our shop. The princess took a liking to it before, but for some reason, didn't buy it. Nan Xi knew that the princess must have found it too expensive. Madame Nan also understood. Even though the princess had many fine things, they were nothing compared to Madame Nan's wealth. Madame Nan, disregarding the price, told Nan Xi to try it on. The translucent jade hairpin complemented Nan Xi's flawless skin beautifully. Nan Xi turned to Yin and suggested she pick one too, but Yin repeatedly refused. Nan Xi smiled. You're at the perfect age. You should have a decent hairpin. Yin insisted, saying that as a martial artist, she couldn't wear such things. She then pulled up her sleeve, revealing a hidden weapon. Miss, martial artists have their own kind of accessories. Nan Xi recognized the design. Yin asked excitedly, Miss, you recognize this? I'll make one for you for self-defense someday. Nan Xi readily agreed, finding Yin even more endearing. The shopkeeper then quoted the price, this hairpin is tails. It's one of a kind. Madame Nan raised an eyebrow slightly, seemingly surprised by the price. The shopkeeper smiled obligingly. Madame Nan didn't say much, simply pulling out a stack of silver notes and saying, keep the change. After leaving the shop, Madame Nan took Nan Xi to several other stores, buying high-quality cosmetics and perfumes. When they returned home, Nan Xi greeted them enthusiastically, Aunt, sister, you're back. Nan Xi looked at Nan Xi pointedly. It seems Li Yinyang hasn't told you what I said. Nan Xi, confused, asked Nan Xi what she meant. Nan Xi stated calmly, my mother is the head madam of the Chengshang Manor. How should you address her? According to proper etiquette. The merchant's daughter, wealthy as she was, still faced disdain. Despite her righteous status, she was coerced by the maidservants into subservience. However, the merchant's daughter quickly put them in their place with her silver. Even the arrogant servants had to bow before the power of money. Their attacks were futile. Without money, they were completely locked out. Nan Xi, eager to secure funds, waited early at the southern rich courtyard. She even enthusiastically welcomed the second madam's return. But Nan Xi wasn't fooled. Upon hearing her addressed as auntie, she retorted, my mother is the head madam. By what title should you address her? According to proper etiquette. Nan Xi reluctantly changed her address to mother, feigning ignorance of propriety while inwardly plotting to use the money to curry favor with the princess, and later deal with them. Nan Xi, aware of her insincerity, pointedly called out her reluctant tone. Mother finds it quite unpleasant, but thankfully she doesn't care, or she would have dealt with you already. Nan Xi inwardly fumed, thinking she can start an internal conflict just because she has some money. That upstart, relying on her wealth, wants to emulate the aristocratic clans and expects us to bow down to her. Dream on, but Nan Xi maintained a pleasant facade. Despite her contempt for the merchant's daughter, she needed her money. Nan Xi feigned ignorance, politely excusing herself. Mother and I are tired from shopping and need to rest. Second madam, if you have business, we can discuss it tomorrow. I am very tired now. Nan Xi panicked. Tomorrow I have to attend Princess Baoling's birthday banquet, and I haven't even prepared my gifts. Nan Furen pretended not to understand the urgency in her voice. Why are you here instead of preparing for the banquet? Knowing Nan Furen's pretense, Nan Xi forced a smile. I wanted to ask mother for some silver. Nan Furen inquired, don't you receive a monthly allowance? Why do you need more silver? Nan Xi dropped the act, her voice laced with resentment. That meager allowance is barely enough. 2 outfits and it's all gone. Seeing her elder sister's expensive jewelry and clothes, she seethed with envy. We are both daughters of the Xiang. Why does elder sister get special treatment? Nan Xi chuckled. I am mother's biological daughter. Isn't it normal for me to spend her money? And mother is happy to give it to me. That's easy for you to say, but mother doesn't have much silver left. Nan Xi, suppressing her anger, said, couldn't I ask mother for money before? Nan Furen stated firmly, the past is the past. Things are different now. Seeing Nan Furen's unwavering stance, Nan Jiao turned to Nan Xi, feigning remorse. Elder sister, I was wrong. I promise to be more respectful to mother in the future. Nan Xi smiled faintly. Well, see how you behave. Seeing a glimmer of hope, Nan Jiao pressed, so, about this time. Nan Xi cut her off. You and your mother constantly come begging. Do you really think we're fools? Nan Jiao gritted her teeth. You? Nan Xi's expression turned icy. I what? Her gaze silenced Nan Jiao, who was taken aback by her sister's sudden, chilling demeanor. Nan Xi turned away dismissively. Go back. Don't set foot in Tingyu Pavilion again, without mother's permission. Ying Shuang, at the door, was also startled. Hurry up and leave. Inside, Nan Furen reassured Nan Xi not to worry about Nan Jiao and her mother. They are not very clever, just spoiled. Nan Xi understood. The real threat was Nan Yu's mother, Liu Xi. A woman who could rise from the courtesan quarters to a wealthy household was not to be underestimated, especially given Liu Xi's background as a courtesan. She was not only skilled in the arts of seduction and entertainment, but also highly intelligent. She had Nan Xingji wrapped around her finger for years, ensnaring him years ago. Nan Xi suddenly paused. 16 years. My father's relationship with Liu Xi has lasted for years. A woman of humble origins, hiding her pregnancy and child for years, waiting for the man to rise to prominence before enacting her plan. And now, the hidden daughter returns. 16 years of scheming finally coming to fruition. While considering Liu Xi, Nan Xi suddenly realized. Her father's relationship with Liu Xi had lasted for years. Nan Furen explained that their relationship wasn't continuous. Nan Xingji, focused on his career, broke ties with Liu Xi due to her status. Unbeknownst to him, Liu Xi was already pregnant. She secretly gave birth to and raised Nan Yu. Until 3 years ago, when Nan Xingji became a high-ranking official. Liu Xi then revealed Nan Yu's existence. Even after all these years, Liu Xi was still alluring. Nan Xingji, unable to resist her charms, fell under her spell once more. Nan Xi scoffed inwardly. That old fox, the former heartthrob of Gulan Courtyard, managed to conceal a pregnancy. Truly skilled. Nan Furen sighed. I only learned about it after Nan Yu was born. If not for a sick guard, I might have remained in the dark. Nan Xi recognized Liu Xi as a formidable opponent. She single-handedly raised a child, waiting until my father reached a high position. Impressive. Nan Furen nodded. Her patience and resilience are admirable, but Nan Xi had one question. How could Liu Xi be so certain that my father would achieve such success? Nan Furen understood. She herself had unconditionally supported Nan Xingji, believing in his talent and abilities. Courtesans were known for their shrewd judgment of character. Perhaps Liu Xi saw his potential from the beginning. Nan Xi now understood Liu Xi's long game, her schemes beginning years ago. Nan Furen asked, why are you so interested in Liu Xi and Nan Yu? Nan Xi simply stated, I won't tolerate Nan Yu. And Liu Xi is a threat, likely the one behind Nan Yu's schemes. Nan Furen remained puzzled. Why do you hate Nan Yu more than Nan Jiao? Nan Xi replied calmly, my conflict with Nan Yu is irreconcilable. Nan Jiao is just a nuisance, deserving of a lesson. Nan Furen worried. Why is your conflict with Nan Yu so severe? What happened? Logically, Nan Jiao posed a greater threat than Nan Yu. Nan Jiao, despite being a Shu daughter, was legitimate. Nan Yu, however, was merely the daughter of a concubine. Why did Nan Xi consider her such a significant threat? Later, returning to Jingnan Courtyard, Nan Xi heard a Jin scolding a man. You lazy good for nothing. The courtyard is filthy. A man tried to explain that she had just cleaned it, but a Jin slapped her. Don't talk back. You're getting bolder. A man, resigned, began sweeping the fallen leaves a Jin had deliberately thrown. A Jin continued to berate her. Yuli announced Nan Xi's arrival. The eldest miss is back. Come out and greet her. The servants rushed out, a Jin quickly changing her demeanor. Welcome back, miss. Ignoring her, Nan Xi went to a man. What happened to your face? A man fearfully lowered her head. It's my fault, miss, I'm clumsy. A Jin interjected, a man is clumsy. Don't mind her, Missil sent her to the kitchen. Nan Xi stared coldly at a Jin. Since when do you assign tasks in my courtyard? Jiyu Qingshu, unexpectedly, had returned early. Not only did he dress up in anticipation of Nan Xi's return, but he also sent someone to inform her of his early arrival, as she had suggested. He arrived at Jinglan Courtyard just as a Jin was bullying a man. This gave him the perfect opportunity to deal with a Jin, who had been sent to him by Jiyu Qing. He had tolerated her out of respect for Jiyu Qing. This allowed a Jin to act tyrannically in the courtyard, but now, with his ties to Jiyu Qing severed, he would show no mercy. Go back where you came from. A Jin's face paled. But young Master Jiyu sent me here. Nan Xi glared at her. So? I don't need you now. What difference does it make? A Jin stood rooted to the spot, speechless. Nan Xi led the other maids inside. They, having endured a Jin's bullying, inwardly rejoiced at her downfall. Inside, Zhu Xiang and Hai Tang, while attending to Nan Xi, inquired about the rumors. We heard you broke off your engagement with young Master Jiyu. Nan Xi, unfazed, confirmed it. Zhu Xiang was thrilled. It's true. Wonderful. You should have done it sooner. That pale-faced man could never make you happy. Hai Tang coughed, subtly warning Zhu Xiang. Zhu Xiang realized her outburst and stammered, "Tu didn't mean it like that." Nan Xi waved it off. It seems everyone thinks Jiyu Qing Shu is unreliable. I was blind for 4 years, but now I'm awake. Zhu Xiang comforted her. Love is blinding, miss. It's not your fault. Hai Tang cautiously asked, you were so devoted to young Master Jiyu. What happened? Nan Xi replied bluntly, I was blind. Now I'm not. We're done. If he tries anything, he'll regret it. She spoke with no trace of sadness, almost with a sense of relief. The two maids sighed in relief. You deserve better, miss. Nan Xi knew better. Jiyu Qing Shu wouldn't give up on the Nan family so easily. He would surely try something, but she was ready for him. He would pay for what he had done in her past life. Recalling the raging fire that engulfed the regent's manor in her past life, Nan Xi thought of Rong Yu. She turned to Ying Shuang. When does your lord usually return to the manor? Ying Shuang replied, his lordship heard that Miss was returning and came back early to wait. Nan Xi was slightly surprised. When did this happen? Wasn't he still at the military camp this morning? Ying Zhong said, his lordship returned while Miss and Madam were shopping. Nan Xi wondered how Ying Zhong knew. Ying Shuang confessed that news within the manor traveled quickly. In truth, neither Nan Xi nor Ying Zhong knew that a few hours earlier, upon hearing Nan Xi casually mention returning to the manor, Rong Yu had immediately returned to wait. Deliberately having Qingyang leak the news to Ying Zhong, Nan Xi had originally planned to go after her afternoon nap, but upon hearing that Rong Yu had already returned, she decided to leave for the manor immediately. Ying Zhong wondered if she should rest a while longer, worried that his lordship would be distressed if she was tired and might even punish the servants. Nan Xi smiled faintly, assuring her that Rong Yu wouldn't punish her. The carriage soon arrived at the regent's manor. Nan Xi felt as if she had stepped into another lifetime. This place, which she had once dreamt of escaping, now felt like home. Rong Yu stood in the waterside flower garden, gazing at the shimmering lake surface, lost in thought. Dressed in white, noble and elegant like an immortal, Nan Xi couldn't help but stare, yet for a moment, she felt a tinge of melancholy in Rong Yu. At this moment, Rong Yu also noticed Nan Xi in the distance. He turned, meeting Nan Xi's affectionate gaze. A cold aura, a delicate face. Nan Xi froze, staring at him. A wealthy and spoiled young lady, with a hidden strength. Once filled with hatred for the regent, now inseparable from him. Impatient to see him after only half a day. Returning to the manor, Nan Xi saw Rong Yu standing by the lake, dressed in white, noble and elegant. Their eyes met. Nan Xi was captivated by his appearance. In that moment of captivation, Rong Yu appeared before her. Nan Xi wondered how he had returned so quickly. Hadn't he been at the military camp that morning? Though Rong Yu had said there was nothing much happening at the camp, Nan Xi knew he had returned to wait for her. It was also the first time she had seen Rong Yu in white. Although it lacked the imposing aura of his usual attire, it held a different kind of charm. Nan Xi couldn't help but ask, why haven't I seen you in white before? Rong Yu replied that he had just finished bathing. Nan Xi was puzzled. What did bathing have to do with wearing white? What was he hinting at? Yingli interrupted her thoughts. Miss hasn't had her afternoon nap yet. Why not rest in his lordship's bedroom first? Silence followed. Both Rong Yu and Nan Xi stopped abruptly. Rong Yu, thinking Nan Xi was unwilling, suggested she rest in a side chamber. Nan Xi playfully tilted her head. She teased, I've already slept in his lordship's bedroom for a month. Now, after only half a day away, I'm not allowed in. Could it be you're hiding a beauty? Rong Yu nervously denied hiding anyone. Qingyang also anxiously assured Nan Xi, Miss, rest assured, I swear on my life, there's no one else in his lordship's bedroom. Nan Xi, in high spirits, couldn't resist teasing further. Smiling, she asked, "So, you're saying the only one who hasn't been in his lordship's bedroom is you?" Turning to Rong Yu, she continued her teasing, "You say there's no beauty. Then what am I?" Rong Yu replied instantly, "You are more beautiful than any of them." Nan Xi blushed crimson. Who said Rong Yu was aloof and taciturn? His sweet words flowed so easily, even Xiang was shocked. His master saying such words. The sun must be rising from the west. After a few more playful exchanges, Nan Xi pulled Rong Yu by the arm towards the bedroom, saying she had something to discuss. Xiang asked gossipingly, "Is Miss discussing marriage matters?" Nan Xi paused, "What marriage matters?" Xiang became anxious, "Miss, don't tell me you've changed your mind." "Of course, it's about the marriage with his lordship." Nan Xi twitched her lips. "Today, we're discussing something else." Xiang understood and instructed Ying Shuang and Yingla to guard the door, and not let anyone disturb them. As evening approached, Rong Yu was still dwelling on Nan Xi's earlier words about entering his room. He said, "If you dislike it, I won't let them in again. You have the final say in the manor's affairs." Nan Xi looked at him earnestly. "I'm not the mistress of the manor. How can I make decisions about its affairs?" She then told Rong Yu to lower his head, which he obediently did. In the next second, Nan Xi stood on tiptoe and kissed him. A moment later, Rong Yu asked, "What does this mean?" Nan Xi stared at him intently. "If I wanted to seduce you, would you punish me?" Rong Yu, more than willing, immediately replied, "I wish you would." Nan Xi suddenly felt inferior. Her boldness was no match for his. Clearing her throat, she explained that she had something important to tell him. Rong Yu asked if it was urgent. If not, they could wait until after her birthday. He then scooped Nan Xi up and carried her towards the bed, asking if she was going back tonight. After sitting on the bed, Nan Xi patted the space beside her. "Whether I return tonight is not important. Your lordship, lie down first." The girl, with a script in her hand, thought she held the entire plot. Little did she know, the man before her was the true god, holding the reins. Theirs was a powerful alliance, not only to overcome current difficulties, but also to create a peaceful and prosperous world. When Nan Xi invited Rong Yu to lie beside her, Rong Yu was stunned. Nan Xi had always been resistant and reluctant, but today she smiled and extended the invitation. It felt unreal. After Rong Yu sat down, Nan Xi went straight to the point. "The new emperor has been on the throne for over a year. With your lordship still holding significant power, I'm afraid his majesty loses sleep over it every night." Rong Yu asked calmly, "Do you want me to relinquish my power?" Nan Xi shook her head. "Quite the opposite. I want your lordship to hold onto your power firmly. Because of your merits, once you relinquish power, you'll be at his mercy. Then, I fear our emperor will find a way to put your lordship to death." Rong Yu, with his usual coldness and confidence, said, "His majesty cannot control me." Nan Xi reminded him, "That's true if your lordship has no weaknesses. But are you sure you have none? Do I count as your lordship's weakness?" After a moment of silence, Rong Yu firmly replied, "Yes." Nan Xi moved closer, her expression serious. "As long as your lordship holds onto your power, I won't be a weakness, but your strength. If one day I truly become a bargaining chip against your lordship, I will not hesitate to end my own life." Rong Yu's expression changed instantly. "No. I won't let you do anything reckless." Nan Xi quickly reassured him, "I said if." But Rong Yu wouldn't allow for this if. He would never let such a situation occur. Nan Xi, feeling reassured, hugged Rong Yu. Rong Yu was right. Such a situation wouldn't happen. Nan Xi knew clearly in her heart, with Rong Yu's military power and her memories of the past life, if they could still be schemed against, then what was the point of their alliance? However, Nan Xi felt something indefinable about Rong Yu's attitude towards her, not quite like the way a man should react when he loves a woman, but everything from her past life told her that Rong Yu's love for her was genuine. She still felt there was something more to it. Nan Xi looked at Rong Yu earnestly. "Your lordship, when did you fall for me? And why?" Rong Yu simply said, "A long, long time ago." "No reason." Nan Xi was even more confused. How long is a long time? The first time she saw Rong Yu was when he returned triumphantly with his army. Back then, he was already hailed by the people as the god of war. But Nan Xi was only 10 years old. He couldn't have fallen for her then, could he? At that moment, a servant reported that Princess Baolin had sent an invitation, inviting his lordship to her birthday banquet. Princess Baolin, named Lin Jia, was the daughter of the eldest princess. She was spoiled but not malicious. Her father, Lin Jun, had supported the second prince during the struggle for the throne. However, it was the third prince who ascended. Consequently, the Lin family was executed as soon as the third prince became emperor. Because Lin Jia was a princess by marriage, her life was spared. Had the eldest princess pleaded for the Lin family, they might have been saved. But she didn't plead for them. And thus the relationship between husband and wife deteriorated, eventually leading to their separation. Their daughter, Lin Jia, however, lived a carefree and glamorous life. But in the end, she was still schemed against and died. Thinking of these things, Nan Xi felt a headache coming on. Rong Yu anxiously asked if she needed a physician. Nan Xi reassured him, explaining that she was just troubled by some thoughts. Rong Yu misunderstood, thinking that Nan Xi was probably thinking about Jiyu Qingshu. Nan Xi then casually asked Rong Yu, "I want to attend Princess Baolin's birthday banquet tomorrow. Would your lordship mind accompanying me?" Seeing Rong Yu's expression change, she asked, "Are you unhappy that I'm going?" Rong Yu denied it. Nan Xi pressed further, "Your lordship, you look displeased. How terrifying is a clear-headed woman, faced with constant questioning. It's better to turn around and choose someone who loves you, even though every time she sees that scumbag, she wants to kill him. She must endure, waiting for the opportunity to strip him of everything, to make him despair, and finally, after much suffering, to finish him off." When he heard Nan Xi say she wanted to attend Princess Baolin's banquet, Rong Yu's expression darkened. Nan Xi noticed something was amiss. She asked if he was worried she would run into Jiyu Qingshu at the banquet. Rong Yu didn't speak, which was taken as a yes. Nan Xi said, "Your lordship needn't worry about him. Every time I see him now, I want to slap him." Hearing these words, Rong Yu's expression shifted slightly. Such harsh words coming from Nan Xi. She used to be so devoted to Jiyu Qingshu. Seeing Rong Yu's surprise, Nan Xi explained again, "I hate Jiyu Qingshu. The sight of him makes me want to tear him apart. When the time is right, will your lordship help me get rid of him?" Since Nan Xi had requested it, Rong Yu naturally obliged. "If you wish, I'll kill him right now." But Nan Xi didn't think it was expensive. To simply let her die would be too cheap. She must first be made to serve, then be filled with disappointment and despair. And finally, after suffering enough torment, be sent away. Nan Xi's eyes blazed with hatred. For what Jiyu Qingshu did in their past life, she felt that death was too kind a punishment. Rong Yu saw the turmoil of emotions in Nan Xi's eyes. His expression was deep and enigmatic, but he said nothing. He simply took Nan Xi's hand, reminding her it was time to change the dressing. Nan Xi's expression softened. "As the prince commands." Just as she was about to change the dressing, Xiang rushed in to announce that Meng, the head eunuch from the empress side, had arrived. Nan Xi frowned. The empress, but there was no genuine ill intent behind it. Nan Xi couldn't help but remind Rong Yu, "Head eunuch Meng must have something to say to you, your highness." Rong Yu, while preparing the medicine, casually told him to wait. Then he turned to meticulously tend to Nan Xi's wound. Their hands were far more important than anything else. Nan Xi calmly asked, "Aren't you going to ask head eunuch Meng what he wants, your highness?" Rong Yu remained indifferent. "Ignore him." Xiang bustled back in again, announcing that the empress wished to invite Miss Nan Xi into the palace. Rong Yu's face turned cold, but he still showed no courtesy. "Don't bother with her." As Xiang turned to leave, Nan Xi called out, "Wait. The empress summoning me now means the emperor suspects something. He must have heard about what happened in the prince's mansion. To be so easily unsettled, clearly, he's losing ground. But I won't just obediently go see him." Nan Xi instructed Xiang to tell head eunuch Meng that Miss Nan is confined to the prince's mansion, and the prince won't let her leave. Xiang was astonished. Isn't that a blatant lie? Miss Nan was out sightseeing for half a day. Many people saw her. Rong Yu agreed with Xiang's action. Xiang readily agreed. His master was completely captivated by Miss Nan. Whatever she said was law. After dressing the wound, Nan Xi noticed the late hour. "I should return to the Xiang residence." "You've been working late, your highness. Please rest." Rong Yu, of course, was reluctant to let her go. He found an excuse. "Didn't you just swear to stay at the prince's mansion?" Nan Xi was speechless for a moment. But the words were out, so she had to stay. It wasn't the first time. The next morning, several maids diligently embroidered Nan Xi's new outfit. Nan Xi's long gown shimmered with an ethereal glow. This moonlight silk was exclusive to the Su Kingdom, produced only once every 3 years, making it extremely rare and desirable. Many wealthy people couldn't even buy it. But where did your highness obtain this? Rong Yu nonchalantly replied, it was a reward from the Su battle. Nan Xi was momentarily stunned. This was a fabric that even the powerful empress and her favored concubines didn't possess. Rong Yu looked at Nan Xi in the mirror, sighing, only you are worthy of it. Nan Xi laughed at this compliment. Your highness, aren't you worried about the emperor's reaction? Rong Yu's tone was light, yet his resolve unshakable. The Su kingdom was conquered by me. If anyone has a problem, let them come. Nan Xi suddenly had an idea, and turned to Rong Yu. Will your highness give me anything I desire? Rong Yu didn't know what she was thinking, but he responded decisively. Nan Xi stood up, half serious, half joking. If I wanted to be empress, would your highness seize the throne for me? The maids around them were all shocked. Is that something you should say? But Rong Yu didn't mind in the slightest. He replied without hesitation, if you wish it, I will. Before he could finish, Nan Xi covered his lips. I was joking, your highness. She then added, when the time is right, your highness, will you tell me why you love me? Rong Yu was speechless. He hadn't expected Nan Xi to ask such a question. Before Rong Yu could reply, Nan Xi, a bit playfully, leaned close to his ear. I'm leaving now. Your highness need not worry about me. She turned and left. A moment of contemplation clouded Rong Yu's mind, leaving a trace of profound emotion in his eyes. Nan Xi's mother was a merchant. As the daughter of a merchant, she was constantly looked down upon. However, she was far from insignificant. Her maids were not only exceptionally skilled, but also dared to challenge the Guan family's young ladies. Anyone who offended her would face the wrath of the Prince of Xiang. In addition to her exceptional skills, Nan Xi's luxurious carriage stopped gracefully at the entrance. As the carriage drew near, the old butler rushed forward. Miss Nan, please come in. Several young ladies from the Guan family were chatting animatedly, the atmosphere lively and warm. With the servant's announcement, Miss Nan has arrived, the atmosphere immediately quieted. Several young ladies glared at Nan Xi with displeasure. A young lady in a yellow dress was the first to issue a challenge. Nan Xi, isn't this your family's estate? Why didn't you come together? Nan Xi responded with a slight smile. Elder sister went to the Xiang prince's mansion last night. I wanted to come with her but didn't have the chance. Baoling Junzu rose to greet Nan Xi, not forgetting to subtly rebuke the two. Different families, different preparations. Nan Xi is the only daughter of the Xiang family. Isn't it normal for her and Nan Jiao to come together? Having said this, she enthusiastically welcomed Nan Xi. Miss Nan, please sit here, ignore them. Nan Xi smiled and agreed. She instantly felt that Baoling Junzu wasn't as overbearing as the rumors suggested, and even found her somewhat amiable. However, Rong Junzu at the opposite table suddenly spoke up. I don't want to share a table with someone of lowly background. Please arrange Miss Nan to another table. The air turned tense. Everyone looked on with expectant amusement. Baoling Junzu looked slightly embarrassed. Rong Miss Nan rarely comes. Don't make things difficult for her. Rong Junzu wasn't to be outdone. Why would I make things difficult for her? Yesterday's rumors circulating in the Imperial city about her, every word points to Miss Nan. Since she did those things, why is she afraid of others talking? Nan Xi thought to herself, these nobles still look down on me. Is it simply because my mother was a merchant? Another girl chimed in, someone who did such morally reprehensible things deserves to be punished. Being born from a merchant's family, she's different from us. She probably doesn't even know what shame is. As soon as the words left her mouth, a resounding slap landed on her face. Rong Junju's eyes widened in shock. You dare? Before she could finish, Yu interrupted. I am a bodyguard from the Xiang prince's mansion, ordered by his highness to protect Miss Nan. Anyone who treats Miss Nan unfairly will be dealt with accordingly. If anyone disagrees, they can complain to his highness. The air fell silent. Rong Junzu, half her face burning, sat stiffly, unable to utter a word. The other young ladies also turned pale with cold sweat. They had thought the young maid was insignificant, but she turned out to be a bodyguard sent by the Xiang prince. No one dared to speak. Yu said proudly, you still dare to look down on our Miss Nan. Now you are all too afraid to open your mouths when you hear the prince's name. Only then did Nan Xi calmly speak. I didn't expect you to be so interested in my affairs. Rong Junzu, losing her earlier arrogance, but still defiant, said resentfully, what are you? You don't even know what you've done, yet you want me to explain it to you. Nan Xi showed no anger. I am indeed nothing. But if I become the Xiang prince's wife, Rong Junzu will have to respectfully address me as empress. Rong stood up in fury. You're dreaming. Yu calmly declared, Miss Nan isn't dreaming. My prince truly intends this. He's just waiting for Miss Nan to agree. This statement caused an uproar. Rong was incredulous. She felt that Rong Yu was only pursuing Nan Xi because of her powerful connections, not out of genuine affection. This thought gave her renewed confidence. Nan Xi reminded Rong, you haven't apologized yet. Rong slammed her cup down in anger. Everyone knows you're a fickle woman, who abandoned Jiu Qing Shu and threw yourself at Rong Yu. Do you really think no one will gossip? Rong rose to her feet. Even if you silence us, you can silence the entire world's gossip. Nan Xi coldly glanced at her. Why can't we silence it? Cut out the tongues of those who gossip, and it's silenced. The Guan family's young ladies' faces turned pale. They inherently looked down on merchants, even showing contempt for Nan Xi and her mother. They found the mother and daughter weak and pathetic. They did not expect Nan Xi to be so domineering and violent. The noble ladies despised Nan Xi's merchant background, yet, she casually wielded wealth worth tens of thousands of taels. Everyone was speechless, gnashing their teeth, because her husband was unparalleled in all of Qing dynasty, but anyone daring to provoke her should be prepared for destruction. These noble young ladies despised Nan Xi from the bottom of their hearts. She ostentatiously dumped Jiu Qing Shu and got engaged to the Xiang prince, which fueled many rumors. This became a way for the noble ladies to attack her, calling her promiscuous and unchaste. Even if we don't spread these rumors, you can't silence the whole Imperial city's gossip. Nan Xi responded directly, Yu, tell the prince to send someone to scour the Imperial city tomorrow. Anyone who dares to spread rumors about me and the prince will have their tongues cut out. Yu readily agreed, while the previously arrogant young lady's expressions changed. They hadn't expected Nan Xi to be so ruthless. Nan Jiao tried to smooth things over. Sister, why make such a fuss? We were just joking. Don't take it to heart. Nan Xi sneered. Joking. Yu, write down everything they said. Let the prince hear it and see if he thinks it's a joke too. Yu readily agreed. I'll report everything, without omission. Simply mentioning the Xiang prince's name usually silenced the entire gathering. She naturally knew that others wouldn't dare defy him. She felt it was convenient to use the Xiang prince's authority to intimidate people, but Nan Xi didn't care. If the Xiang prince's name is useful, why shouldn't I use it? These so-called noble ladies don't use their family background to pressure others. Seeing the escalating tension, Lin Jia poured Nan Xi a cup of water. Everyone is here for my birthday. For my great-uncle's sake, let's all just laugh it off and remain friends. Nan Xi suddenly understood. Rong Yu was Lin Jia's great-uncle. Knowing he was younger than she expected, it was shockingly far off. Nan Xi is about the same age as the Lin family. So would be his great-aunt. Lin Jia observed Nan Xi's emotional shock. After a moment of stunned silence, Nan Xi calmed down. She removed the jade pendant, a gift from Rong Yu. This jade pendant, I bought it from Mo Yu Ji yesterday, for 10,000 taels. If you don't mind its lowly origins, accept it as a birthday gift. Mo Yu Ji and 10,000 taels were enough to shock the other young ladies. Lin Jia's eyes widened, inwardly dismissing the notion of lowly origins as completely absurd. It is elegant and refined but feigned humility, saying it's far too expensive. Nan Xi replied nonchalantly, having a merchant mother is indeed bothersome. A merchant's background often invites disdain, but it's also true that being able to buy whatever one wants is incredibly satisfying. As Nan Xi spoke, she placed the jade pendant in Lin Jia's hand. The origin might be common, but the item itself is extraordinary. This jade is exquisitely translucent, and should be worn by an elegant woman. Lin Jia nodded repeatedly. Miss Nan is right. I love this simple elegance. Rong Le's face darkened, ready to intervene. Just one pendant is enough to buy you off. Lin Jia gently moved the pendant, indicating it was a gift and not a bribe. Seeing the envious and resentful gazes of the Guan family's young ladies, Nan Xi didn't mind letting them stew in their jealousy. She told Lin Jia, when I become the Xiang prince's wife, I'll be your elder. I'll give you even more valuable gifts then. Lin Jia was overjoyed, fantasizing about Nan Xi and the Xiang princes. Wedding. Nan Jiao was green with envy. She tried hard but didn't get anything, while Nan Xi casually gave away a 10,000 tael pendant. It wasn't fair. Just as everyone was consumed by envy and resentment, a maid announced the arrival of another guest. Wen Lan, the granddaughter of the current Grand Tutor Wen Hongru, was not only of noble birth, but also a renowned scholar. Wen Lan entered with an air of elegance and grace, first presenting Lin Jia with a birthday gift. Then she sat next to Rong Le. Rong Le Junzu smiled expectantly. This Miss Wen has always admired the Xiang prince. There'll be more drama to watch. Sure enough, after Wen Lan sat down, she looked at Nan Xi with hostility. With a sarcastic smile, she asked Baoling Junzu, when did your relationship with Miss Nan become so close? Baoling Junzu smiled widely. We'll be family soon, so naturally we should get along. Wen Lan's face fell. Family? What do you mean? Lin Jia explained, my great-uncle, the Xiang prince, is to marry Miss Nan. When she becomes the Xiang princess, we will be family. Wen Lan's face darkened further. Xiang princess. I've never heard of this. Lin Jia didn't know how to explain, glancing nervously at Nan Xi. Nan Xi answered directly, Miss Wen isn't a deity. She doesn't need to know everything. This is a private matter between me and Rong Yu. It's not something that needs to be publicized to the whole world. This statement caused Wen Lan's face to redden. It was the first time she had been so publicly humiliated. Rong Le was also surprised that Nan Xi would dare to ignore even the Grand Tutor's granddaughter, relying on the Xiang prince's reputation. A maid of noble birth dared to speak so arrogantly to the daughter of a merchant. But this time, she met her match. The opponent's maid was equally formidable. To show their contempt for the merchant's family, Nan Xi always used the Xiang prince's name to quell the situation. Everyone hated her, but they didn't dare to confront her. But Wen Lan's arrival gave them new hope. After all, Miss Wen was not only of noble birth, but also admired the Xiang prince. She would definitely fight Nan Xi, who claimed to be the future Xiang princess. Indeed, when Wen Lan heard Nan Xi was the future Xiang princess, she immediately expressed her displeasure. She stated directly that she had never heard of such a thing. Nan Xi calmly responded, this matter hasn't been announced to the world. It's only natural that Miss Wen doesn't know. Wen Lan angrily retorted, Miss Nan's arrogance is meant to announce this to the world. Nan Xi's threat was subtle, targeted only at those present, as the birthday celebration wasn't over and the news hadn't spread. Wen Lan's maid spoke up, she's desperately trying to show off. Miss Nan's claim of being the Xiang prince's wife is just hearsay. She'll be slapped in the face soon enough. Lin Jia rebuked Wen Lan's maid. Wen Lan always acted refined and graceful. Why was her maid so out of line? Yin Yu immediately retorted, when Hongru is so strict with his family, yet his maid is so ignorant and lacking in decorum. What gives you the audacity to openly challenge the Xiang family? The argument escalated to include Wen Hongru and his family, making Wen Lan uneasy. Her maid was silenced under Yin Yu's pressure. Just then, Lin Jia's maid came to deliver a message from the Xiang family. The Xiang prince personally went to the Xiang residence to formally propose marriage to Miss Nan Xi. After Miss Nan's birthday, she would return to the Xiang residence. The announcement stunned everyone. Wen Lan's face was deathly pale. Yin Yu stated, everyone heard that. Miss Nan will be the mistress of the Xiang prince's mansion. Does anyone else want to speak out of turn? Nan Xi revealed a satisfied look. Yin Yu did a great job. I didn't even have to say anything, and she solved everything. But Yin Yu wasn't finished. She directly criticized Wen Hongru's family's lack of discipline. If they can't manage their own servants, how can they talk about governing the country? Wen Lan seized upon this. My grandfather was a tutor to the princes. You're trying to erase his years of service with a single sentence. Yin Yu didn't back down. Merit and loyalty are two different things. Having merit isn't an excuse for unruly behavior. If the servants are disobedient, how can the higher-ups expect loyalty? Yin Yu's words hit home. No one could deny it. The noble young ladies all broke into a cold sweat. Under pressure, Wen Lan ordered Xiaoyu, her maid, to apologize to Nan Xi. Xiaoyu timidly apologized, but only with a simple and unconvincing statement, urging Nan Xi not to quarrel with the maids. Nan Xi looked at her disdainfully. Is this your apology? Xiaoyu stammered, I'm a servant of the Wen family. Nan Xi frowned. So what? Even if Grand Tutor Wen apologized personally, there should be more sincerity. Don't act like you're just a lowly maid. Xiaoyu's face turned pale, looking helplessly at Wen Lan. Wen Lan, unable to bear Nan Xi's taunts any longer, angrily retorted, Miss Nan, you're deliberately provoking me. Nan Xi remained calm and collected. Miss Wen, don't overestimate yourself. I'd rather have tea with the prince than argue with you. This directly humiliated Wen Lan, causing her to clench her fists. The other young ladies' expressions were extremely complicated. Nan Xi didn't even bother to act polite. Her maid, with a few words, completely silenced the group of noble ladies. The birthday party transformed into a scene of intense verbal sparring. Everyone turned their attention to the merchant's daughter, but she remained calm and unmoved, sipping her tea. Her maid, with just a few words, silenced the opponents. Watching Nan Xi and Yin Yu handle the situation with such ease, Lin Jia was secretly pleased. These people were outwardly affectionate, yet secretly looked down upon her. If it weren't for Nan Xi's bold actions, Lin Jia would have almost forgotten this chilling contempt. Lin Jia heartily sided with Nan Xi. Miss Wen, your maid was truly disrespectful. She should face the consequences. Wen Lan was surprised that Baoling Junzu was defending Nan Xi. Xiao Yu hid behind her mistress, looking indifferent. Yin Yu didn't let her off. Xiao Yu, don't hide and pretend to be silent. Did you have permission to speak earlier? Xiao Yu gritted her teeth. Didn't you also speak? Yin Yu said confidently, I spoke, and I admit it. Do you have a problem with that? Xiao Yu was speechless, and Wen Lan's face was even darker. Lin Jia also sternly told Wen Lan, Miss Nan is magnanimous. Just let it go. Wen Lan felt offended. Does the Junzu think him petty? Nan Xi found it strange that Lin Jia was so happy. Perhaps she's also had enough of these noble ladies. Wen Lan, having lost face, decided not to prolong the situation. She stood up to leave. Junzu, please entertain Miss Nan. The other noble young ladies followed Wen Lan, saying they had something to do. Lin Jia didn't stop them, but reminded them, once you leave this estate, don't pretend to be friendly with me again. I don't forget those who offend me. Rong Yu was surprised that Lin Jia was willing to turn against them for Nan Xi. Lin Jia didn't intend to suffer any humiliation and bluntly stated, you came to my birthday banquet, and treated me so poorly. What gives you the right? Rong Yu was shocked. She didn't want to upset Lin Jia, who was favored by the emperor. She immediately tried to appease her. Don't be angry, we were all just joking. Well, finish the banquet before leaving. She then gestured to Rong Yu. Lulu, isn't that right? Rong Yu nodded with difficulty. A maid announced that the banquet in the Feong Hall was ready, asking everyone to proceed. Lin Jia pulled Nan Xi towards Feong Hall without bothering with the others. Rong Yu gnashed her teeth in anger. Nan Xi, besides being of lowly origin, has what else? Just a little silver, and she's able to get the Baoling Junzu to side with her. In Feong Hall, the princess and several noble ladies were already seated. Nan Xi politely greeted the princess and the other ladies. However, the princess maids cast disdainful glances at her. The princess said with a smirk, Miss Nan's been making quite a name for herself lately. Nan Xi responded without hesitation, my prominence isn't something I sought. It's fortunate that the Xiang prince is not a murderer. Otherwise, these people wouldn't be alive. Nan Xi started by issuing a veiled threat. Nan Xi began by issuing a veiled threat. The head maid didn't expect Nan Xi to speak so boldly in front of her. Lin Jia looked worriedly at her mother and Nan Xi, sensing the tense atmosphere. Nonsense, the head maid interjected, Nan Xi has a unique character. Prince Rong will like that. She then invited everyone to be seated and suggested to the Lin family head that he take Nan Xi for a stroll in the peach orchard after the banquet. At the banquet, the noble ladies began to flatter each other. Princess Jun suddenly turned her attention to Nan Xi, asking what she usually enjoyed doing. Her father remained silent. Another lady sneered, Miss Nan must be busy helping her mother with business. Where would she find the time to learn such elegant pursuits? Nan Xi chuckled inwardly. She couldn't understand why people always seemed to find fault with her. One moment the head maid was making snide remarks. The next, an official's wife was provoking her. The entire banquet was infuriating. However, she didn't know that the earlier skirmishes were just minor provocations. The purpose of today's invitation was not so simple. Seeing the noblewomen mocking Nan Xi's merchant background and lack of refinement, Yin Yu spoke up first, my lady is skilled in everything. From managing accounts to embroidery, nothing is beyond her. But she won't need to handle such things herself. As the prince wouldn't bear to let her lift a finger, the Lin family head expressed pleasant surprise. Wonderful. Perhaps we can embroider together sometime. Nan Xi readily agreed. Princess Jun suddenly challenged, since Miss Nan is so accomplished, why not perform a piece for the head maid and young Master Jun? It would liven things up. Yin Yu's face turned cold. If you want entertainment, hire some performers. My lady is not here to sell her skills. Princess Jun gritted her teeth, telling Nan Xi to control her servant. Prince Rong is of noble status. You must be mindful of your behavior, lest it affect your business. Nan Xi wasn't concerned about her actions affecting business. Prince Rong had absolute power and influence. What business problems could arise? Nan Xi retorted that Yinyu was following Prince Rong's orders, and she likely wouldn't listen to Nan Xi on such matters. Yinyu silently gave Nan Xi a thumbs up. This was how a lady should behave, making sure no one dared to disrespect her. Seeing that Princess Jun hadn't gained any ground, the head maid intervened. It's such a joyous occasion. Let's not spoil the harmony. She then gave Rong Lu a subtle look. Rong Lu immediately understood. Turning to the Lin family head, she said, the head maid mentioned the peach blossoms are in full bloom. Why don't you accompany me to pick some? The Lin family head seemed hesitant. What do you need peach blossoms for? Rong Lu smiled sincerely, as if the previous unpleasantness had vanished. She said that Nan Xi seemed bored and suggested making peach blossom hair ornaments. The head maid chimed in, yes, go on. Miss Nan should join you too. Young people should spend time together. Nan Xi agreed, saying a stroll would be nice. The Lin family head had a strange feeling, but couldn't quite put his finger on it. He agreed and the head maid urged him to invite his other friends, but not to leave Nan Xi alone. A short while later, the group arrived at the head maid's peach orchard. Rong Lu suggested that the Lin family head accompany her deeper inside. He wanted to bring Nan Xi along. But Rong Lu said Nan Xi could wander freely. The orchard was large enough. The Lin family head expressed concern. Miss Nan is a guest. What if she gets lost? Nan Xi smiled nonchalantly. She knew things weren't that simple, but whatever plot was afoot, she would face it head-on. Nan Xi pointed to Yin Shuang and Yinyu, saying, with them here, there's no need to worry. You can go. Reassured, the Lin family head told Nan Xi to relax and enjoy the orchard. Yinyu assured the young master that they would protect Nan Xi. The Lin family head again earnestly instructed Yin Shuang and Yinyu to look after Nan Xi before heading deeper into the orchard with the others. Rong Miao followed closely behind. Only Nan Jiao remained with Nan Xi. After the others left, Nan Jiao approached Nan Xi provocatively. What brings eldest sister here today? I thought you wouldn't come. Nan Xi poked at Nan Jiao's sore spot. What gift did younger sister give young master Bao Ling? Mentioning this, Nan Jiao flew into a rage. I'm not as rich as eldest sister. What gift could I possibly afford? I just picked something random from the storeroom. Nan Xi observed Nan Jiao's outburst and calmly advised, if I were you, I'd be mindful of my attitude. Nan Jiao became even angrier, her temper flaring. Does elder sister want me to wag my tail like a pathetic dog in front of your father-in-law? Nan Xi smiled faintly. Not necessarily, but your sarcasm won't benefit you. After all, your allowance comes from my mother's dowry. Even if you're sarcastic, it won't change your situation. Nan Jiao's face turned even uglier. Eldest sister could afford 1,000 taels of silver for the young master's gift, while younger sister couldn't even spare a single tael. As daughters of the same prime minister, Nan Jiao was filled with rage. In this secluded place, she began to accuse Nan Xi. You and your mother suppressing second mother and the other daughters. Father will definitely not let this go. Nan Xi remained unfazed. The money comes from my mother's dowry. Even if second mother complains, you'll still be penniless. If you think you can do without allowance in the future, then continue your tantrum. Nan Jiao reminded Nan Xi, father is the head of the family. This family isn't yours to control. Nan Xi scoffed, that may be true in other matters, but when it comes to money, if I don't give it, even the heavens can't make me. Just wait and see. With that, Nan Xi walked away, leaving Nan Jiao fuming but helpless. Nan Xi now understood why her mother said Nan Jiao and her mother weren't worth the effort. Their lack of awareness of their situation was astounding. Nan Yuan was much more strategic. But Nan Xi had already discarded her mother like trash, so Nan Yuan had no opportunity to demonstrate her strategies. Just as Nan Xi was lost in thought, a familiar voice interrupted her. Seeing Jiyu Qingshu, Nan Xi realized this was the head maid's real reason for bringing her to the peach orchard. Jiyu Qingshu was the emperor's favorite, and the head maid was the emperor's relative. Helping Jiyu Qingshu seemed logical. As soon as Jiyu Qingshu saw Nan Xi, he reached out to grab her hand. Shimai, listen to me. Yinyu suddenly rushed forward, her sharp dagger pressed against Jiyu Qingshu's throat. Don't you dare touch her if you value your life. Jiyu Qingshu gritted his teeth, ordering the servant to stay back. This is between masters. You have no right to interfere. Yinyu retorted, if anyone's leaving, it's you. Don't you know the proprieties between men and women? Seeing Yin Yu's refusal to back down, Jiyu Qingshu turned to Nan Xi to explain that Nan Yu hadn't intended to assassinate her. It was a misunderstanding. Nan Xi raised an eyebrow. So, Nan Yu has finally woken up. Jiyu Qingshu nodded. She's just a young girl. She wouldn't harm you. Nan Xi retorted, if she's so kind, why don't you be with her? You two seem like a match made in heaven, the talented scholar and the beautiful maiden. Meanwhile, the head maid noticed Rong Yu's presence in the distance. She hurried over to greet him. Your Highness, are you here with Miss Nan? She's currently in the peach orchard. A maid beside them suddenly said with a nervous expression, your servant saw young Master Jiyu also heading towards the peach orchard. Rong Yu's eyes narrowed dangerously. Jiyu Qingshu. A barely perceptible smirk appeared on the head maid's lips. She then slapped the maid. Nonsense. How dare you interrupt when I'm speaking? The maid immediately began slapping herself while stammering, your servant must have been mistaken. Miss Nan is with the young master, definitely not with young Master Jiyu. The head maid gave an awkward laugh. Your Highness, please don't listen to a servant's ramblings. Rong Yu's expression remained unreadable. He simply turned and strode towards the peach orchard. After Rong Yu left, the head maid praised the maid. You did well. But the maid was worried. Won't this harm young Master Jiyu? What if Prince Rong becomes enraged? The head maid was unconcerned. Jiyu Qingshu is an expendable pawn. Even if he dies, the loss to the emperor wouldn't be significant. The priority now is to prevent Nan Xi from marrying Rong Yu. After all, the Nan family is immensely wealthy. With their support, Prince Rong would become even more powerful. Nan Yu, this engaged woman, allowed Jiyu Qingshu to impregnate his other sister. After being dumped, he then begged for forgiveness. Yet, his mind was preoccupied with other matters. Jiyu Qingshu wanted to use Nan Xi's connections to help Nan Yu smoothly enter the Chengsheng residence. That way, whether he married Nan Xi or Nan Yu, he would become the Chengsheng residence's son-in-law. This act of planting roots in the court, impregnating another woman while engaged to Nan Xi. All these schemes were seen through by Nan Xi. She decisively broke off the engagement with Jiyu Qingshu, and she resolved to prevent Nan Yu's entry into the residence. No matter how much Jiyu Qingshu pleaded, she wouldn't turn back. In the head maid's peach orchard, Jiyu Qingshu was still trying to win Nan Xi back. He desperately claimed that Nan Xi was the only one in his heart, and he had no romantic feelings for Nan Yu. Nan Xi flatly rejected him. Whether you like Nan Yu or not has nothing to do with me. The person I like is Prince Rong, and he's the one I'll marry. She reminded Jiyu Qingshu, we've already broken off the engagement. Stop pestering me. Jiyu Qingshu's face darkened, and his tone became harsh. My father-in-law is the emperor's most trusted official. Don't you forget your place. If Prince Rong is threatening you, I can report him to the emperor. Nan Xi scoffed. Report to the emperor. Do you think the emperor is closer to you or Prince Rong? In his desperation, Jiyu Qingshu blurted out, the emperor and Prince Rong may be close, but they are not. Nan Xi interrupted him. Are you saying the emperor and Prince Rong are actually enemies? Jiyu Qingshu's face paled. He hadn't meant to say that. He quickly tried to backtrack. Nan Xi looked at him mockingly. A true man owns up to his words. You can't even admit what you said. How can I believe you're doing this for me and against Prince Rong? Jiyu Qingshu tried to play the victim card. Shimai, I can apologize for anything I've done wrong. Please don't be so cold to me. He reached for her hand. Yin Yu blocked him with her dagger. Don't touch her. Faced with this persistent suitor, Nan Xi told him to go home. She bluntly stated her love for Prince Rong. Prince Rong has status and power. What are you? I not only dislike you, but I also despise you. Humiliated and enraged, Jiyu Qingshu shouted, Nan Xi, I can't believe you're so depraved. Consider my sincerity wasted on a dog. Nan Xi shrugged indifferently. I've had enough of your nonsense. Don't come looking for me again, or you'll face the consequences. Yin Yu added, even if my lady were blind, she'd still choose our prince over worthless trash like you. This remark further infuriated Jiyu Qingshu. You? Just then, Nan Xi turned and saw a familiar figure. Rong Yu. What's he doing here? She approached Rong Yu. Your Highness, are you worried I'd run off with Jiyu Qingshu and came to spy on me? Rong Yu softly replied, no. Yin Yu anxiously explained, my lady, you misunderstand. His Highness isn't like that. Being here is just a coincidence. Rong Yu clenched his fists. It's no coincidence. You can leave now. After Yin Yu and Yin Shuang left, Rong Yu said, I didn't doubt you, nor did I spy on you. Nan Xi was confused. Then why are you here? Rong Yu lowered his eyes. A blush creeping up his cheeks. I was worried. Nan Xi stared at him. Worried about what? Did you hear what I said earlier? I, Mushu Rong Yu, love you with all my heart. Nan Xi's heart skipped a beat. Your Highness, do you finally see me for who I am? Rong Yu firmly replied, you are not. A flicker of doubt crossed Nan Xi's mind. Your Highness seems nervous. The girl, one moment engaged in a verbal sparring match with her ex-boyfriend, the next, was having a heart-to-heart with her current boyfriend. She had just proclaimed her love for Mushu Rong Yu and her preference for handsome men. Not only was he not angry, he declared his willingness to give her anything. Nan Xi had efficiently dismissed Jiu Qingshu, only to find Rong Yu standing nearby. She directly asked him if he now saw her true self. I am the woman who loves Mushu Rong Yu with all her heart. Rong Yu, unable to contain his emotions, revealed his own feelings and immediately declared, whatever you want, they'll give it to you. Nan Xi was touched. Although these words sounded cliché, she felt his sincerity. They were the most beautiful words she had ever heard. She recalled Jiu Qingshu's love poems, which were nothing but copied verses. He hadn't even bothered to write his own. The thought now disgusted her. Nan Xi suddenly asked, I heard your Highness went to the Prime Minister's residence today. Rong Yu acknowledged with a hum. He stared intently at Nan Xi, a faint blush creeping up his cheeks. Nan Xi was puzzled. Is there something on my face? Why do you keep staring? After a moment of silence, Rong Yu finally mustered the courage to ask, do you like everyone who's good-looking? Nan Xi paused, then replied looking at Rong Yu's handsome face, probably. Rong Yu's expression faltered. Quick-witted, Nan Xi continued, in my eyes, no one in the world can compare to your Highness' unparalleled beauty. Rong Yu's face brightened, and he chuckled softly. He then gently took Nan Xi's hand and led her out of the peach orchard. Nan Xi was overjoyed, deciding that nothing could separate her and Rong Yu, not in this life, or the next. I have money, you have power. We're a match made in heaven. As they walked closer, Yin Shuang rushed over to report that the Emperor had sent the head eunuch to summon Rong Yu for an audience. Rong Yu flatly refused. I'm busy. As Yin Shuang was about to relay the message, Nan Xi stopped him. She turned to Rong Yu. How can you refuse a summons from the Emperor? This time, the Emperor probably wants to offer you a marriage alliance, using me in exchange for your military power. Will you agree? Rong Yu remembered Nan Xi's previous words. Military power must remain in your own hands. But he also knew he would definitely choose her. He declared resolutely, who I marry is my decision alone. Nan Xi nodded in approval. But we still need to give the Emperor face. We must go to the palace. She then leaned closer to Rong Yu and whispered, Your Highness, please be careful after entering the palace. Don't consume anything offered to you. It's best to be cautious, especially when dealing with someone who wants you dead. Rong Yu blushed and nodded. He had initially intended to have Nan Xi return to the manor first. However, Yin Shuang informed him that the Empress had also summoned Nan Xi. Rong Yu wasn't inclined to give the Empress face, but Nan Xi intervened. The more impatient the Empress is, the easier it will be to deal with her. Besides, I doubt she'd dare to do anything to me, especially since I'm with you. Rong Yu nodded. You're right. As they left the peach orchard, they saw Jiu Qingshu's servant running towards them frantically. He anxiously asked Nan Xi, Miss Nan, have you seen my master? I can't find him anywhere. Nan Xi retorted with disdain, you're his personal servant. Shouldn't you be with him? How would I know where he is? At that moment, the head maid approached. Your Highness, Miss Nan, are you heading to the palace? Nan Xi knew she was feigning ignorance. How could the head maid not know about the Emperor's summons? But she simply replied that it was the Empress summons and they couldn't refuse. The head maid put on a sincere expression, offering to prepare a separate carriage for Nan Xi. After all, Miss Nan is still an unmarried maiden. Your Highness should consider her reputation. Nan Xi refused. There's no need to trouble yourself, head maid. I'll share a carriage with His Highness. We've already been intimate, so why care about reputation? The head maid forced a smile. Miss Nan is certainly forthright. And quite eloquent. Nan Xi retorted nonchalantly, His Highness is a man of few words. Naturally, I have to speak more to avoid awkward silences. Hearing the word intimate, Rong Yu's ears turned slightly red. The head maid's smile, however, became strained. It seemed Nan Xi was determined to marry Prince Rong and become the princess. This young lady, at such a young age, possessed immense wealth. The head maid treated her with respect, and even the empress had to address her as a senior. Yet, some clueless young misses continued to provoke her. After receiving the empress summons, Nan Xi and Rong Yu put on another show of affection in front of the head maid. Nan Xi was declaring her claim as the future Princess Rong. The 40-year-old head maid was filled with resentment, but she couldn't show it in front of Rong Yu. She could only watch as they walked towards the carriage. The head maid had intended to use Jiyu Qingshu, but he was nowhere to be found. She angrily demanded of her servants, "Where's Jiyu Qingshu?" They trembled in fear. We haven't found him yet." The head maid flew into a rage. "Useless. Keep searching." At that moment, in a hidden corner of the head maid's residence, Jiyu Qingshu was being beaten up inside a sack. The head maid recalled Nan Xi's words and seethed with anger. It seemed like a display of affection, but it was more a warning. "I will be the Princess Rong. Deal with it." A sinister smile appeared on the head maid's face. "You want to be the princess? Dream on." The carriage rattled towards the palace. Nan Xi couldn't help but sigh. Being with His Highness certainly has its perks. "Even the head maid treats me with respect," Rong Yu seriously told her. "Once you become the princess, the emperor, empress, and even the head maid will be your juniors." Nan Xi chuckled at the thought of the 40-year-old head maid curtsying to her. It was an amusing image. Suddenly, she remembered the anxious look on Jiyu Qingshu's servant's face. It didn't seem like an act. She suspected Rong Yu had something to do with it. "Did something happen to Jiyu Qingshu?" Rong Yu replied casually, "Has just being taught a lesson." Nan Xi paused. Rong Yu wasn't one to be soft-hearted. Just how severe was this lesson? She cautiously asked, "Did you cripple him?" Rong Yu shook his head. "No. You wouldn't like that." Nan Xi was taken aback. "Did your highness think I still had feelings for him, or did you think your methods were too cruel and would scare me?" Hearing this, Rong Yu nodded. "I didn't want to scare you." Nan Xi laughed. "What's there to be afraid of? You wouldn't hurt me." A blush crept up Rong Yu's cheeks. He suddenly grabbed Nan Xi's hand and promised, "I won't hurt you." Never. The carriage soon arrived at the palace gates. They would have to part ways now. Rong Yu to see the emperor, and Nan Xi to see the empress. Rong Yu carefully helped Nan Xi out of the carriage. He instructed Yin Shuang and Yin Yu, "Protect her. Don't let anyone bully her." They assured him, even the heavens wouldn't be able to touch Miss Nan. Nan Xi looked at Rong Yu reassuringly. "Don't worry. The empress won't dare to act rashly. She still has to consider your standing." Rong Yu added, "If anything happens, immediately inform Yin Shuang." Only then did he leave with peace of mind. Nan Xi thought to herself, if the empress had been reasonable, she wouldn't have resorted to such blatant schemes. However, Nan Xi had overestimated the empress. The empress' younger sister, Bai Fei, came out to greet her, her words dripping with hostility. "Miss Nan, you've certainly been the talk of the town these past few days. The entire capital is buzzing with gossip about you." Nan Xi calmly replied, "What's wrong with being the center of attention?" Bai Dai coldly sneered, "You flirtatious hussy, do you really think the Regent King likes you?" Yinla indignantly roared, "What did you say?" She clenched her fists, about to charge forward. Nan Xi stopped Yinla but stared fixedly at Bai Dai. "Whether the Regent King likes me or not has nothing to do with Miss Bai, does it?" Dropping her pretense, she laid her cards on the table. "Miss Bai, if you can't understand my implication, it'll be blunt. You're not worthy of the Regent King. Stop your wishful thinking." A hint of mockery touched Nan Xi's lips. "I'm not worthy. Does Miss Bai consider herself worthy?" He suddenly thought Bai Dai was quite suitable. Others saw Rong Yu as a fearsome god of death, but Bai Dai seemed to have a good eye for picking targets. But he was determined to have Rong Yu in this life, and no one would take him away. Nan Xi directly declared her sovereignty. "The Regent King is mine. No one else should dream of pursuing him. Miss Bai, you should take a look in the mirror, and see where you're worthy of the Regent King." Bai Dai gritted her teeth. "What did you say?" Yinla, standing behind, smirked. "That the Regent King is mine line was quite impressive, miss. Too bad the king isn't here. If he heard that, I bet he'd be ecstatic for days." Bai Dai's face darkened. She threw out a bluff, "Just wait until we get to Empress Feng's palace. Let's see if you dare speak like that then." She truly believed Nan Xi wouldn't dare act so presumptuously. In front of the Empress, Nan Xi raised an elegant eyebrow. Please, Miss Bai, wait and see. The Empress, intending to assert her status, had summoned the girl, never expecting to be humiliated. Not only did the girl disrespect her, but she openly slapped her in the face. And the champion of the competition naturally wouldn't let it go. She always had ways to deal with her opponents. Nan Xi was just arriving at the palace gates when the Empress' younger sister ridiculed her. However, she remained unfazed and left the other speechless. Bai Dai didn't say anything more, confident that the Empress would deal with her. Please, Miss Bai, wait and see. Nan Xi repeated calmly. Moments later, Bai Dai led Nan Xi to Empress Feng's palace entrance. The palace maid went in to announce, Miss Nan has arrived. The palace instantly fell silent, but the Empress ignored her, continuing to chat with the other concubines. The concubines immediately chimed in, showering the Empress with flattery. Sister Empress, your makeup is exquisite today, truly noble. Sister Empress, you're naturally noble. We are but shadows in your brilliance. Basking in the flattery, the Empress felt smug. Last night, the Emperor said my judgment was flawed, but in your mouths, it becomes the ultimate truth. Hearing the laughter from inside, Nan Xi understood. The Empress was trying to give her a show of force, but she wasn't going to play along. She turned to Bai Dai. Go announce me again. If the Empress doesn't have time, I'll leave. Bai Dai was shocked. How dare Nan Xi? Didn't everyone wait obediently for an audience with the Empress? Despite her thoughts, Bai Dai went back inside. Empress, your younger sister has something to report. Bai Dai whispered, Sister, Miss Nan is impatient and says she's leaving. The Empress and the concubines' faces changed drastically. No one expected Nan Xi to be so bold as to speak like this outside the Empress palace. The Empress was furious. Nan Xi was undermining her authority. How dare she, especially with the Regent King backing her? How audacious. Seeing the Empress lose face, a palace maid, Dao Ji, quickly said, Your Majesty, don't be upset by someone who doesn't understand the rules. I'll go take a look. But the Empress refused to let the other concubines see her as a laughingstock. She told the maid to tell Nan Xi to wait, claiming she had just woken up. Dao Ji relayed the message. Nan Xi was instantly angered. Still resting. Does she really think him a fool? Nan Xi told Yinla to stay calm. After all, the Empress' rest is important. Seeing Nan Xi seemingly relent, Dao Ji felt a surge of triumph. Just as she began to praise Nan Xi's understanding, she heard her continue. Please inform the Empress not to rush. I'll come back later. With that, she turned and left. Dao Ji panicked. Nan Xi. How dare you leave the Empress' presence? Nan Xi paused, then looked back with a calm yet imposing expression. The Regent King has a bit of a temper. I can't leave him for too long, otherwise if he can't find me, he'll get angry. And who knows who will suffer then? Bai Dai was grinding her teeth. She was actually using the Regent King to pressure them. Seeing Nan Xi really leave, Dao Ji quickly changed her tone. Miss Nan, please wait. There are several concubines paying their respects inside. If you don't mind, please come in and wait. She knew if Nan Xi left, the Empress would lose all face today. Nan Xi turned back with a faint smile. Since that's the case, then I'll trouble you. Bai Dai was dumbfounded. Even the Empress couldn't suppress her. Miss Nan had truly broadened her horizons today. Yin Shuang and Yinla followed Nan Xi inside. Dao Ji didn't dare stop them. One of the concubines, Xu Fei, immediately provoked her. Miss Nan, since you call yourself a subject, shouldn't you kneel before the Empress? The Empress was also embarrassed. Dao Ji hurriedly offered Nan Xi a cup of tea. The Empress composed herself. Miss Nan, your refusal to kneel, is it intentional disrespect towards this palace? Yinla was furious. Make our Miss kneel. How dare you? Dao Ji couldn't bear it any longer. Insolent. You dare be so disrespectful in front of the Empress. Yinla remained calm. My lord has decreed that Miss Nan has the privilege of not kneeling. Is the Empress more esteemed than the Emperor? The Empress slowly set down her teacup. So, it seems this palace has wronged Miss Nan. However, it's now spring, the season for the selection of Imperial consorts. Miss Nan's age and family background meet the requirements. You should participate in this selection. The surrounding concubines all understood. The Empress wanted Nan Xi to become a concubine so she could control her. Nan Xi directly refused. I have no intention of entering the palace as a concubine. The Empress didn't expect such a direct refusal. Her face fell. This isn't a request. It's a rule for noble women to participate in the selection. Even the Regent King can't object. She was the Emperor's woman, and even he dared not disobey her. Nan Xi was being forced to participate in the selection, clearly a ploy by the Empress to control her. This action directly angered the Regent King. Anyone who dared touch his woman would face his wrath. The Empress intended to intimidate Nan Xi, but Nan Xi not only resisted, but repeatedly used the Regent King's name as a shield. The Empress then thought of a way the Regent King couldn't refuse. Making Nan Xi a concubine. Once she became a concubine, wouldn't she be under her control? She reminded Nan Xi, the selection is a rule, even the Regent King cannot object. As she spoke, the Empress glanced at Nan Xi, somewhat envious of her youthful beauty. But what made her even more envious was Nan Xi's dress. It was the Moonlight Sha. A tribute from a vassal state. She had wanted it but never received it. So the Regent King had given it to this girl. The Empress seethed with anger but suppressed it. She couldn't let the concubines see her lose composure. Nan Xi calmly spoke, "Your Majesty, did you summon me just for this?" Yinla chimed in, "Miss, we should go. The king is probably waiting outside." Dao Ji immediately feigned outrage. "Insolent. The Empress and the other consorts are present. Have you no manners?" Yinla's aura was even stronger. "Don't be so fierce. I'm not afraid of you." Xu Fei, on the side, added fuel to the fire. "Miss Nan is so disrespectful, and her maid is equally unruly. According to palace rules, they should at least be given 40 lashes. Let them learn their lesson." While seemingly directed at Nan Xi, the Empress knew Xu Fei was subtly targeting her. Punishing the Regent King's maid was equivalent to disrespecting the Regent King. What a clever two birds with a nest-stone tactic. But the naive Bai Dai didn't understand this and even praised Xu Fei. "Consort Xu is right. Such impudence deserves a beating." The Empress immediately snapped at Bai Dai, "Shut up." Yinla couldn't help but chuckle. "Oh, Bai Dai, what an assist." Nan Xi also chuckled softly and then spoke. "The people of the Regent's manor are not for others to punish. If there's nothing else, please forgive my impoliteness. Well, take our leave." She turned to leave. Xu Fei, unwilling to miss this opportunity, shouted, "Nan Xi, aren't you afraid of angering the Emperor by disrespecting the Empress?" Nan Xi glanced coldly at Xu Fei. "Since I dared to enter this palace, I'm not afraid of anything." The Empress couldn't stand it anymore. "Your disrespect to this palace is disrespect to the Emperor. Today, this palace will teach you the rules." She ordered the guards to seize them. Yinle and Yin Shuang immediately shielded Nan Xi. "Just try," Yin Shuang added, "anyone who dares touch our miss will face the consequences. Come on, if you dare." The atmosphere grew tense. The palace maids rushed forward to grab Nan Xi, but Yin Shuang and Yinle protected her. Suddenly, the announcement came, "The Emperor arrives. The Regent King arrives." As the words fell, the Emperor and Rong Yu walked in. Everyone immediately knelt, except Nan Xi, who remained standing with her back turned, subtly building up emotions, as if she'd suffered a great injustice. Then, with tears in her eyes, she turned to Rong Yu and cried out pitifully, "My lord." As she turned, the Emperor also saw Nan Xi and inwardly sighed. Truly a delicate beauty, no wonder his uncle. Nan Xi choked with sobs and fell into Rong Yu's arms. Rong Yu's anger surged. He held Nan Xi, comforting her, then turned coldly to Yinle. "What happened?" Yinle quickly reported, "The Empress wanted Miss to enter the palace as a concubine. When Miss refused, she ordered her seized." The Emperor was shocked and looked at the Empress. "When did I order Nan Xi to enter the palace as a concubine? Was she trying to usurp his authority and force the Regent King's woman into the palace?" The Empress was also taken aback. "Uncle, please calm down. This is not what it seems." Rong Yu cut her off. "Did I give you permission to speak?" His icy gaze was murderous. He turned back to Yinle. "Continue." Yinle, with a gleam in her eye, highlighted the key points. "The Empress and the consorts wanted Miss to kneel. When we protested, Xu Fei suggested we be beaten. And that by Dai, she called Miss a flirtatious hussy, unworthy of the Regent King." Yinle spoke eloquently, venting all their grievances. Nan Xi, nestled in Rong Yu's arms, secretly rejoiced. Yinle's eloquence was truly impressive. The tables had turned. Now, the show would begin. Rong Yu's gaze turned to Bai Dai, his eyes cold as a winter storm. "Insolent. Slanderous." Bai Dai's face paled, and she stammered, "It was Miss Nan who didn't understand the rules." We didn't intentionally offend her. Your Majesty, please investigate, Bai Dai pleaded with the Emperor. The Emperor felt his imperial authority trampled upon. He looked at Rong Yu, but couldn't utter a word of plea. Yin Shuang's slap landed hard on Bai Dai's face. She was a martial artist, and the force of her slap sent Bai Dai reeling. Everyone watched in stunned silence. The Empress' younger sister was being slapped by a maid, and neither the Empress nor the Emperor dared to intervene. The sound of slapping echoed through the hall. The concubines were petrified, holding their breath. As Bai Dai's cries continued, the Empress finally couldn't bear it anymore. Your Majesty, please stop her. She is my younger sister. Rong Yu was also furious with the Empress, inwardly cursing her foolishness. He had told her to appease Nan Xi and use her against him, but she had completely offended her. Now, he was showing her no mercy, even slapping her sister right in front of him. Rong Chuyan took a deep breath, and tried to plead with Rong Yu. Uncle, this is just the Empress mismanagement. I will have her reflect on her actions. Please, uncle, show some leniency. Rong Yu remained silent, gently patting Nan Xi's back. Clearly not giving the Emperor any face. Seeing Rong Yu unmoved, the Empress gritted her teeth. The slapping continued relentlessly. Bai Dai could barely cry out anymore. She could only weakly plead with Nan Xi. Please, Miss Nan, be magnanimous. Don't lower yourself to my level. Please, for my sister's sake, forgive me this once. Yinla scoffed. Now you ask for magnanimity. Where was your magnanimity when you called our Missa hussy, unworthy of the Regent King? This reminded Nan Xi. She wiped her tears and looked pitifully at Rong Yu. Am I truly unworthy of you? Rong Yu looked at her seriously. In my eyes, only you are worthy of being my princess. Nan Xi then asked, in front of everyone, will I need to kneel to the Empress in the future? Rong Yu stated firmly, no. No one dares make you kneel. He then turned to Yinla. From now on, anyone who dares speak nonsense to Miss Nan, you may cut out their tongue. The Emperor's face darkened. The Regent King dared to say no one could make her kneel, including him, the Emperor. Was he planning to rebel? Truly a wolf in sheep's clothing. Nan Xi continued to act. My lord, from now on, you're not allowed to have any concubines or maidservants. I don't want any random women in our home. The concubines gasped. How dare Nan Xi be so audacious? Wasn't she afraid of offending the Regent King? To their surprise, Rong Yu tenderly replied, I'll listen to you. There will be no concubines or maidservants in the regent's manor. This shocked and angered the concubines. Rong Yu then turned to Yin Shuang. Enough. Yin Shuang, also tired of hitting, threw Bai Dai to the ground. Bai Dai's swollen face was now unrecognizable. Rong Yu spoke calmly. Since the Empress cannot manage the harem, she shall be confined to her quarters for now. Your Majesty, do you agree? Rong Chuyan knew he couldn't fight Rong Yu. He forced down his anger and agreed. Uncle is right. The Empress should be punished. Rong Chuyan then turned to Xu Fei. As for Xu Fei, you will remain in the cold palace to cultivate your character. Do not come out again. This punishment for Xu Fei was Rong Chuyan's show of good faith. Nan Xi remained silent. Truly worthy of being the Emperor, able to adapt to any situation. Nan Xi, seeing the situation had played out, looked at Rong Yu. Let's go back. Rong Yu reached for her hand, but Nan Xi clung to his arm and pulled him out. Rong Chuyan, watching them leave, clenched his fists. The Empress was indignant and tried to speak to the Emperor. Rong Chuyan slapped her hard, sending her tumbling to the ground. The Empress clutched her swollen face, looking at the Emperor in disbelief. Rong Chuyan's eyes were cold. Don't think you can do as you please in the harem, just because I favor your father. He then angrily flung his sleeves and left. Dao Ji hurriedly helped the Empress up. Clutching her face, the Empress seethed with resentment, blaming all her humiliation on Nan Xi, vowing revenge. Cheng Xiang was complaining about his wife's spending when he overheard their daughter outside. To his surprise, the Regent King was with her. Leaving the Empress palace, Nan Xi remarked, I never thought I'd argue with the Empress. Wasn't that too much? Rong Yu disagreed. Not at all. He held her hand tighter. You weren't too much at all. Nan Xi looked at him tenderly. As long as you don't dislike me, it's fine. Rong Yu pulled her closer. I won't dislike you. I like you just the way you are. Qing Yang was waiting anxiously outside. Seeing them emerge, she rushed forward. Miss, are you all right? Did the Empress give you trouble? Yinla, brimming with excitement, interrupted. Of course, there was trouble. The empress and the concubines tried to make things difficult for Miss. But in the end, they were the ones who suffered. Xiang felt she had missed a good show. She had to get the full story from Yinla later. Nan Xi was speechless. How could a grown man be so gossipy? Rong Yu escorted Nan Xi back to the Xiang manor. At the gate, the steward rushed out. Young miss, you're back. The master is furious in the Ting Yuan. Nan Xi frowned. What is my father doing now? The steward whispered. The master wants to hire a tutor for the young master, but madam refuses to pay. Nan Xi understood. How much could a tutor cost? He was probably using this as an excuse to demand more money. She turned to Rong Yu, suggesting he return to the manor, as she needed to see her mother. Rong Yu, worried about her, offered to go in with her. Nan Xi agreed. As they approached the Ting Yuan, they heard Nan Xingji's angry voice. All day long, you waste money on frivolous things. After all these years, you've only produced a daughter. You're not even capable of bearing a son, and you're from a merchant family, tainted with their vulgarity. If it weren't for our past affection, I would have divorced you long ago. Nan Xi's face turned icy. She pushed the door open. Father, what nonsense are you spouting? If it weren't for mother supporting you all these years, how could you have achieved your current status? Madame Nan remained calm, simply observing. Nan Xingji was enraged. Insolent. You dare talk back to your father? Who gave you the right to criticize me? Nan Xi retorted, if I had a choice, I'd rather not have you as my father. Mother marrying you was worse than marrying a common laborer. At least a laborer would be sincere. Nan Xingji was furious, but speechless. He roared for Nan Xi to shut up. Just then, Rong Yu walked in with a calm expression. Nan Xingji's face changed colors. He hurriedly bowed. Your Highness. Madame Nan also rose and calmly greeted Rong Yu. Rong Yu ignored Nan Xingji and gently told Madame Nan not to trouble herself. Madame Nan invited him to sit. Rong Yu sat next to Nan Xi. A maid served tea, while Nan Xingji was left standing, ignored by everyone. Feeling slighted, he turned to Nan Xi. Come with me. I have something to discuss with you. Nan Xi remained seated. Father, if you have something to say, say it here. There's nothing we can't discuss openly. He pretended to be concerned about his daughter's marriage, but in reality, he wanted to use her as a spy and treat her mother as a money bag. Nan Xingji originally wanted to discuss Nan Xi's marriage to Rong Yu privately, but Nan Xi refused to give him face, insisting he speak publicly. Nan Xingji said coldly, some things can only be discussed privately. Nan Xi retorted, the Regent King is present. Father, are you not afraid of being disrespectful by leaving? Nan Xingji's face twitched, rendered speechless. Rong Yu calmly sipped his tea, observing the scene. Good tea. Madame Nan introduced, this is this year's early spring Lingshan Yunwu tea. If your highness likes it, please take some back with you. Nan Xi smiled at Rong Yu. This is the first time mother has used Lingshan Yunwu to entertain a guest. Rong Yu politely replied, it's my honor. Nan Xi then mentioned Rong Yu's proposal that morning. Madame Nan reassured her, you'll make sure your wedding is grand and memorable. As she spoke, Madame Nan looked at Rong Yu approvingly. Such perfect demeanor and prestige. She truly has good taste. Nan Xingji, completely ignored, listened to their conversation, his face darkening. He finally interrupted. I wanted to discuss this with you. I think this matter needs careful consideration. Nan Xi slowly stood up. Since father wants to discuss it, let's go to the study. She smiled at Rong Yu. Please discuss the wedding details with mother. Rong Yu gave her a reassuring look. In the study, Nan Xingji closed the door, and got straight to the point. I disagree with your marriage to the Regent King. Nan Xi wasn't surprised. As long as I'm willing, your disagreement won't stop it. Nan Xingji asked pointedly, have you considered that once the emperor consolidates his power, the Regent King will be the first to be dealt with? He pretended to be concerned for Nan Xi, but she knew he was only worried about his own position. She reassured him, I've already thought of a solution. Nan Xingji slammed the table. Don't be naive. The Regent King wants you only for your mother's resources. He's just preventing her from supporting the emperor. Even if you don't fear death, don't drag the entire Nan family down with you. Nan Xi chuckled. Father, your words are so touching. Anyone who didn't know better would think you deeply care for mother. Nan Xingji was speechless. After a moment, he softened his tone. You know the dangers of the royal family. You don't want to see the entire Nan family implicated, do you? Nan Xi didn't want to argue further. Father makes sense. I'll consider it. As she turned to leave, Nan Xi called her back, saying she shouldn't refuse the Regent King's proposal outright. Nan Xi's expression turned cold. She turned back with a mocking smile. What does father mean? Nan Xi hesitated, then said awkwardly, you can continue seeing the Regent King, but delay the marriage. He couldn't even meet Nan Xi's gaze. Nan Xi understood. Her father not only disagreed with her marriage, but wanted her to stay by Rong Yu's side as a spy. She didn't say anything, but laughed coldly and left. The same old tricks from her past life. As she stepped out of the study, her eyes lit up. My lord. What are you doing here? Rong Yu asked gently, are you done? Nan Xi ran towards him and threw herself into his arms. Gazing at his handsome face, her affection grew. She stood on tiptoe and kissed him. Rong Yu caught her lips. Why are you so affectionate today? A woman in love can be truly unpredictable. The man Nan Xi plotted against protected her thoroughly, even after she was found out. This mutual devotion is the envy of their new neighbors. Near noon, Rong Yu asked Nan Xi if she wanted to go home for lunch or eat with him. Nan Xi felt where they ate wasn't the point. The point was Rong Yu saying go home. As if the prince's residence was already her home. Just then, Madame Nan arrived, seemingly a godsend. You and the prince should go back. I have something to attend to and won't be back until evening. Go back again. Nan Xi felt like her mother and Rong Yu had planned this. She then asked how the marriage discussion with the prince had gone. Madame Nan reassured her everything went well, and that she needed to prepare the dowry. My daughter must be married off in splendor, surpassing even a princess. Nan Xi worried. A princess extravagance wasn't always a good thing. Madame Nan had her reasons. The more I act like a nouveau riche, the more at ease some people will be. This is for you and the prince's benefit. She then urged Nan Xi and Rong Yu to leave and visit again, when they had time, acting as if Nan Xi was already married into the residence. Nan Xi didn't understand her mother's enthusiasm for Prince Xiang. But Madame Nan's performance made Nan Xi feel that her mother was quite shrewd, as if she had been playing dumb all along. Unlike those other cunning women, after a brief chat, Nan Xi bid her mother farewell, and left the Xiangfu with Rong Yu. In the carriage, Rong Yu suddenly pulled Nan Xi into a tight embrace. Nan Xi was puzzled. What is your highness doing? Rong Yu explained directly. I didn't marry you for your mother's wealth. Nan Xi wondered why he brought this up. Did your highness overhear my father's words? Rong Yu admitted he was afraid Nan Xi misunderstood. Everyone said he needed the Nan family's wealth to support his troops, and that his army was a burden on the emperor. But no one knew Rong Yu had his own secret businesses. And didn't need Madame Nan's money. Nan Xi was confused. Her past life experiences convinced her of Rong Yu's sincerity. Even if he truly wanted her family's wealth, she was willing to spend it on him. But now he claimed to have his own resources. The question was, if your highness doesn't need my mother's money, then why marry me? Rong Yu tightened his embrace, his head resting on hers. A moment later, Rong Yu looked at Nan Xi with firm eyes and said, because it's you, that's why I want to marry you. Nan Xi was still confused. What kind of explanation was that? But she quickly regained her composure and started teasing, Your Highness, with your high status and power, I assented excessive to ask for my hand in marriage as a commoner. Rong Yu replied shamelessly, I asked you to marry me. Nan Xi was speechless. He was good at turning the tables. Rong Yu looked at her sincerely. Nan Xi suddenly laughed. My father doesn't want me to marry your highness, he wants me to scheme against you. He pretends it's for my sake, but he's pushing me into a fire pit. Nan Xi revealed Nan Xing's plan without reservation. Rong Yu's focus was elsewhere. He asked directly, am I the fire pit? Nan Xi playfully pinched his face. Your highness knows what I mean. But if I really did what he said, I wouldn't have a good ending. I assented that pushing me into a fire pit. Rong Yu held her hand reassuringly. Even if you plotted against me, I wouldn't harm you. I will never be your fire pit. His words reminded Nan Xi of her past life. She helped Jiu Qingshu plot against Rong Yu, yet Rong Yu still treated her with kindness in the end. Tears blurred her vision. Speechless, she simply stared at him. Rong Yu panicked, nervously wiping away her tears. What's wrong? Did I say something wrong? Nan Xi leaned against him, choked with emotion. No, she whispered. Scenes from her past life flooded her mind. Who in this world could remain kind and without resentment after being plotted against? But Rong Yu truly did treat her that way. Holding her close as she worked through her emotions, wiping her tears, she promised, "I will never plot against you. Even if my own father asks me to, even if it means death, I will never plot against you." Rong Yu gently stroked her hair. "Don't say such foolish things. With me around, you won't need to face death." In just half a day, the girl first taught a group of noble ladies a lesson, then dealt with a philandering scumbag, stood up for the empress sister, earned the empress respect, permanently thwarted the empress plans, discussed her marriage with her mother, and confronted her scheming father. Even on the carriage ride home, she was busy flirting with the prince. Nan Xi, remembering her past loyalty, vowed never to scheme against Rong Yu again, even if it meant death. Rong Yu embraced her. "Don't be silly. With me around, you won't face that." Nan Xi quickly explained it was just a figure of speech, then realized the usually quiet prince was quite talkative today. Rong Yu asked seriously, "Do you prefer me talkative or quiet?" Nan Xi smiled tenderly, "I like both. Talkative seems lively, quiet seems more distinctive." The carriage arrived at the prince's residence. Rong Yu carefully helped Nan Xi out, afraid she might fall. As they entered, steward were reported, "Young master Wen came this morning while your highness was out. He said he would return this afternoon." Nan Xi recalled her earlier confrontation with Wen Lan. Now the Wen family's first son was requesting an audience with Prince Xiang. She wondered if it was a coincidence or pre-planned. Seeing Nan Xi's tired expression, Rong Yu personally massaged her legs, asking if she was tired. Nan Xi was surprised. "Your highness is of noble status. How can you do such a menial task?" Rong Yu continued massaging her legs, saying he didn't mind and told her to rest. "We can talk later when you're feeling better." Nan Xi felt strangely pampered. Was Rong Yu treating her like a child? She then asked if he didn't need to go to the military camp today. Rong Yu was unconcerned. "With Ling Fan and Chalin there, it's all right if I don't go." Nan Xi agreed. Ling Fan and Chalin were completely loyal to Rong Yu. This was also one of the reasons the emperor relied on him. Ling Fan, personally trained by Rong Yu, was undoubtedly loyal. No one could sway him. Speaking of loyalty, Nan Xi suddenly remembered someone she saw on the street while shopping with her mother. Why was he there? It seemed there was a spy in the residence. But she couldn't ask Rong Yu directly. He might wonder how she knew about the spy. After a moment, Nan Xi cautiously asked, "Your Highness, could the emperor have secretly planted spies in the residence?" Rong Yu wondered why she suddenly asked this. Nan Xi simply expressed concern. "The emperor was so enraged today. I fear he might resort to other methods against your highness." Rong Yu reassured her, "There are indeed the emperor's spies in the residence, but they pose no threat. With me here, no one can harm you." Nan Xi was relieved. It seemed Rong Yu was aware of the emperor's actions, and was deliberately letting it happen. Waiting for the right moment. A while later, lunch was served. Nan Xi realized this was the first time she dined peacefully with the prince. Yuyin smiled, "Miss, you can dine with his highness every day. You'll get used to it." Nan Xi teased, "What if after 3 or 5 years, his highness gets tired of me and doesn't want to dine with me anymore?" Yuyin quickly denied it. "Impossible. His highness isn't like that." Rong Yu also seriously clarified, "Never." Nan Xi laughed, "I'm just teasing Yuyin." Rong Yu kept adding food to her plate, asking if it suited her taste, and told her not to hesitate to ask for anything she wanted. Nan Xi said she felt like a pampered princess. Rong Yu, expression unchanged, asked seriously, "Do you want to be a princess?" Nan Xi started analyzing seriously, "If I were a princess, I'd either be your highness sister, or..." But Rong Yu's expression became complex. He knew Nan Xi's true identity and felt a strange mix of emotions hearing her talk about becoming a princess. Qin Yang's announcement interrupted his thoughts. "Young Master Wen has arrived." Rong Yu instructed him to wait in the study. Qin Yang added, "Miss Wen is also here and wishes to speak with Miss Nan." Nan Xi was puzzled. "I just had an unpleasant encounter with her this morning. What could she want to talk about? It must be trouble." Rong Yu initially wanted Nan Xi to finish her meal and rest, ignoring Wen Lan. But Nan Xi had other ideas. It was time to assert her dominance. As the mistress of the residence, wouldn't it be rude to ignore a guest? Rong Yu caught the key phrase mistress of the residence. He knew Wen Lan's intentions. She was probably here to negotiate. Since she had taken the initiative, Nan Xi wouldn't refuse. She reassured Rong Yu, saying she was bored anyway, and would treat it as a casual chat. To marry the prince, the girl was willing to risk her entire family's fortune, even suggesting he make his beloved a concubine. But the prince refused her offer outright. Prince Xiang is mine. No one else can have him. After lunch, Nan Xi went to the flower hall to meet Wen Lan. From afar, she saw Wen Lan reading. Nan Xi was impressed. As expected of the Wen family's talented daughter, even when out, she doesn't forget to read. Such a thirst for knowledge puts us commoners to shame. Seeing Nan Xi approach, Wen Lan politely gestured, "Miss Nan, please sit." Nan Xi inwardly scoffed. Was she being treated as the hostess now? But she didn't dwell on it, getting straight to the point. "Miss Wen, what brings you here today?" Wen Lan requested Nan Xi dismiss her attendants, saying she wished to speak privately. Yu Yin immediately objected. "No, His Highness ordered Ying Shuang and me to protect Miss Nan at all times. We cannot leave her side." Wen Lan remained firm. "Some things are not suitable for a third party to hear." Nan Xi nodded to Yu Yin, telling her and Ying Shuang to wait outside. Yu Yin hesitated. Nan Xi reassured her, "This is Prince Xiang's residence. What harm could come to me here? I just want a private chat with Miss Wen." Yu Yin and Ying Shuang then withdrew. Nan Xi calmly poured a cup of tea. "Miss Wen, what did you want to say?" Wen Lan began with a condescending question. "It's clear Prince Xiang cares for you and truly wants to marry you. But do you think you are worthy of him?" Nan Xi found her condescending, but replied calmly, "If Prince Xiang thinks him worthy, then I am. Even if I weren't, what business is it of yours, Miss Wen?" Wen Lan scoffed. "Of course it's my business." Wen Lan looked at Nan Xi seriously. Prince Xiang holds military power and the authority of Xiang. With the Wen family's support, even if he clashes with the emperor in the future, he will still prevail. Nan Xi interrupted, "Miss Wen, you're quite bold. Are you suggesting Prince Xiang usurp the throne?" Wen Lan remained calm, telling Nan Xi not to be surprised. No prominent family focuses only on the present. The Wen family naturally needs to plan for the future. Nan Xi understood. If the emperor and Prince Xiang ever clashed, the Wen family would side with the prince, but Nan Xi knew there was more to it. Wen Lan was using this as leverage to negotiate. She calmly prompted Wen Lan to state her conditions. Wen Lan didn't hold back. "My request isn't much. I simply ask that Prince Xiang marry me. Then the Wen family will be his strongest supporter." Nan Xi inwardly scoffed. That wasn't a small request. Wen Lan seemed to think she was destined to be an empress. If Prince Xiang became emperor, Wen Lan would be his empress, and the Wen family would become the most powerful in the land. What a scheme! Nan Xi shook her head. "I have no interest in your proposal, Miss Wen. Prince Xiang's matters are not my concern. I hope you will not bother me again." Wen Lan was angered. "You are already interfering. A merchant's daughter occupying the position of Prince Xiang's main consort. Don't you find it selfish? When I become Princess Xiang, I can make you a concubine. Why be so stubborn?" Nan Xi thought Wen Lan must be delusional. Where did she get the confidence that she could become Princess Xiang? She didn't waste any more words. Standing up, she declared, "Rong Yu is mine. I will not share him with anyone." Wen Lan fumed behind her. "Nan Xi, you better think this through." Nan Xi remained indifferent. "There's nothing to think through. Miss Wen, please see yourself out." After Wen Lan left, Yu Yin asked curiously, "What did Miss Wen say?" Nan Xi thought for a moment and laughed. "I thought she was here to cause trouble, but she actually told me a joke." Yu Yin was confused, and followed the smiling Nan Xi into the main hall. Rong Yu noticed Nan Xi's expression, and asked what was so amusing. Nan Xi covered her mouth, feigning shyness. "Your Highness, you wouldn't believe how adorable Miss Wen was just now." Rong Yu frowned slightly, unsure how Wen Lan could be adorable. Sensing something more, he asked directly, "What did she say to you?" Leaning against Rong Yu, Nan Xi said playfully, "Wen Lan said if she became Princess Xiang, the Wen family would support your Highness. She was even generous enough to offer me a concubine position." She also said it was selfish of me to occupy the position of the main consort. Rong Yu pulled Nan Xi into a hug. Seeing the murderous intent in his eyes, Nan Xi gently stroked his eyebrows, comforting him with a smile. That's why I found her amusing. You can laugh at it too, Your Highness. Looking at Rong Yu intently, she asked, do you think him selfish, Your Highness? Rong Yu replied without hesitation, no. I like you being selfish with me. On impulse, Nan Xi kissed Rong Yu's face. Touched, Rong Yu asked, aren't you angry? Nan Xi patted his chest. Why would I be angry? I said Your Highness dislikes her, and only likes me. Rong Yu whispered in her ear, only you. Nan Xi, her ear nibbled, said softly, whether now or in the future, there's only room for me in your heart. Prince Xiang could no longer restrain himself, kissing the girl he loved deeply. Nan Xi gasped, wait until I finish, but Rong Yu wouldn't let go, murmuring, I'm listening. Gently pushing him away, Nan Xi said seriously, I can't tolerate rivals. If you like me, then from now on, the main consort and all the pampering must be mine. Rong Yu gazed at her intently, all yours. Only you, in this life and the next. But Nan Xi wasn't satisfied. A lifetime isn't enough. You will be mine for every lifetime. Forever bound to me. Rong Yu was deeply pleased. I will only be yours, for every lifetime. Nan Xi felt Rong Yu was wonderful, but seemed emotionally guarded. Her past life worries resurfaced. When did you start liking me, Rong Yu? He fell silent. Nan Xi asked. Disappointed, can't you tell me? Rong Yu quickly explained, the time isn't right. You'll know in the future. He then nibbled her finger. Nan Xi retracted her hand. Both pained and ticklish. Your Highness likes to bite me, doesn't he? Rong Yu admitted, I want to devour you bit by bit. Nan Xi shuddered playfully. It sounds like you have a deep-seated grudge against me. Rong Yu pulled Nan Xi into a tight embrace. I want to keep you close, so you can never leave. Nan Xi snuggled against his chest. Rong Yu held her tighter. Since you've agreed to marry me, don't hesitate. Don't think about Jiu Qingshu anymore. Nan Xi hugged him tightly. I'll never leave again. The sky gradually darkened. Xiang muttered outside, it seems Miss Nan will be staying in Master's room tonight. Master was too much of a gentleman before, giving Miss Nan the bedroom while he slept in the study. How foolish. He should have claimed her long ago. Yuyin scolded him, Xiang, you'll never get a wife. You're no different from Jiu Qingshu. Scum. Xiang retorted seriously. If you don't believe me, check tomorrow. Master will be glowing with satisfaction. Before he could finish, a furious roar came from inside, Xiang. 3 hours of penalty duty. Xiang immediately knelt. Yuyin pointed and scolded, serves you right for your loose tongue. Inside, Rong Yu quietly closed the window, muffling the sounds. Nan Xi, not having heard Xiang's words, asked innocently, did Xiang say something? Don't be too hard on him, Your Highness. Rong Yu turned and told her to sleep, saying he would send Yuyin in later. Reluctantly, Nan Xi asked, where are you going? She patted the space beside her, isn't this your bed? Are you worried it'll harm you? Rong Yu became serious. We're not married yet, Nan Xi countered, you'll be mine sooner or later. I promise not to take advantage of you before then. A smile played on Rong Yu's lips. What if I can't control myself? Nan Xi was confident, you won't. She knew Rong Yu would rather hurt himself than do anything she didn't want. Rong Yu smiled faintly. He said he needed to go to the study and asked if Nan Xi wanted to read. Nan Xi was curious. Are there medical books in Your Highness' study? Rong Yu was puzzled. Why do you suddenly want to read medical books? Nan Xi explained with a smile. I have some basic medical knowledge. I thought I could improve it when I have time. Your Highness excels in military strategy. I should also learn something. 2 young ladies made plans to admire a handsome man. The future prince consort, surprisingly at ease, even encouraged his future princess to spend more time with this handsome man. Before going to bed, Nan Xi expressed her desire to read medical books, but there were none in the bedroom. Rong Yu initially wanted to have Ying Shuang fetch some from the physician, but Nan Xi thought it was too late and told him to go to the study. After Rong Yu left, Nan Xi's thoughts drifted to her past life and the incident where Rong Yu was poisoned. She hadn't paid much attention to him then, and didn't know who orchestrated the poisoning. But she wanted to prevent it this time, hence her interest in toxicology. While lost in thought, Rong Yu returned from the study. He asked what she was thinking about. Nan Xi was momentarily unsure how to explain. I was just thinking about how to protect you, he said half-jokingly. Rong Yu believed him. Li Ai's mind readily accepted this. This piqued Nan Xi's curiosity. I'm just a delicate woman. Doesn't your highness think I'm incompetent? Rong Yu took Nan Xi's hand and placed it on his chest. You can protect my heart. Nan Xi chuckled. Your highness, you seem to be a man of few words, but it turns out you're also good at sweet talk. Rong Yu looked at him earnestly. If you don't like it, I won't say it again. Nan Xi quickly added, I like hearing it. You should say it often. He suddenly felt that Rong Yu was being overly accommodating, and he couldn't help but tease him. I've changed so much these past 2 days. Doesn't your highness find it strange at all? Don't you think I'm putting on an act and plotting something? Rong Yu seemed very reassured. What could you be plotting? You didn't even listen to your father, and you broke off your engagement with Jiu Qingshu. Were all of those things just a performance? Nan Xi jokingly narrowed his eyes. What if it was all an act? Rong Yu remained unconcerned. Then I'm willing to be tricked by you. The affection in Nan Xi's heart deepened, and his eyes revealed a hint of tenderness, as they gazed at each other. A passionate flame flickered within Rong Yu's heart, but he quickly suppressed it. He calmly pulled down the bed curtains. It's getting late. Let's sleep. Inside, Rong Yu quickly fell asleep, while outside, Xiang, restless, paced back and forth. Rong Yu got his wish, but I have to stay up all night. What a disaster. Princess Baoling sent an invitation to Nan Xi, inviting him to Qingyan Theatre to enjoy an opera performance afternoon. Nan Xi opened the invitation, read it, and had someone reply to the Lin family that he would definitely be there on time. The name Qingyan Theatre made Nan Xi feel a bit uneasy. He recalled past events related to the theatre. A scandalous incident had occurred there. Qingyan Theatre was the most famous opera house in the capital, and its star performer, Fu Chenggongzi, was renowned. 80 or 90% of the people who went there were going for this Fu Chenggongzi. This Fu Chenggongzi not only had a beautiful appearance, but also a beautiful voice. His admirers included not only noble ladies and gentlemen, but also many scholars. There were even some high-ranking officials. Because of this, he was taken by the 7th prince. He was forcibly taken into the 7th prince's mansion to be a concubine. This incident caused an uproar in the capital. However, within a day, no one dared to discuss it anymore. Because the night Fu Chenggongzi was taken by the 7th prince, the 7th prince was brutally beheaded, ending up dismembered. This incident shocked the entire capital. The emperor was furious and ordered the arrest of Fu Chenggongzi. However, Fu Cheng, along with everyone in Qingyan Theatre, disappeared overnight. This incident eventually became an unsolved mystery. During lunch, Nan Xi mentioned Princess Baoling's invitation to the opera to Rong Yu. Rong Yu stared at him. Qingyan Theatre is a mixed bag. ZG, don't let any music or voices distract you from me. Nan Xi suddenly felt Rong Yu's reaction was odd. Aren't you worried he'll be captivated by Fu Chenggongzi's beauty and talent? Rong Yu seemed very confident. He said strangely, Fu Cheng has someone he likes. Now it was Nan Xi's turn to be surprised. He hadn't heard anything about this before. Having someone they like is normal, but what Nan Xi found strange was that Rong Yu seemed to know quite a bit about this Fu Chenggongzi. He seemingly carelessly managed the opera house. He brutally dismembered the 7th prince, yet managed to escape without a trace. Nan Xi not only suspected Fu Chenggongzi's identity, but also wondered if Shi Zhengwang was secretly helping him. When he told Rong Yu that he was going to the opera with the Lin family, Rong Yu not only wasn't worried that he would fall for Fu Chenggongzi, but also knew that Fu Chenggongzi had someone he liked. Judging from past events, Rong Yu hadn't had any interactions with Fu Chenggongzi, but now it seemed Rong Yu knew Fu Chenggongzi quite well. Rong Yu didn't want to explain further, only saying that he had some contact with Fu Cheng before. And even generously allowed Nan Xi to interact more with Fu Cheng, even inviting him to the mansion. Nan Xi was even more surprised. Rong Yu actually allowed him to interact with a strange man. He couldn't help but ask, "Is your highness so magnanimous?" Rong Yu said with feigned anger, "Do you want me to keep you locked up in the mansion, never allowed to step outside?" Nan Xi quickly waved his hands. Of course not. But he already had some doubts in his heart. There was definitely some connection between Rong Yu and Fu Chenggongzi. Then he thought of another possibility. Could it be that in his past life, Fu Chenggongzi was able to escape safely after killing the 7th prince because Rong Yu helped him? As promised, Nan Xi arrived at the Qianzi Hao private room in Qingyan Theatre. Lin Jie enthusiastically waved at him. "Young Master Nan, come sit down and have some tea. Fu Chenggongzi will be on stage soon." Nan Xi sat down and started chatting. "Junzu, what made you suddenly think of listening to the opera? Do you come here often?" Speaking of this, Lin Jie sighed. "I've come less often this year. I used to come frequently the year before, but then something happened at home, and I didn't leave the house for a whole year." Nan Xi thought for a moment. Lin Jie must be referring to the Lin family's extermination. He then asked, "How is your father, Minister Lin, doing recently?" Lin Jie poured Nan Xi's tea and sighed. "It's rare that you still remember my father. Since the Lin family incident, no one in the capital dares to mention him. Those people, they all envy my glamorous life on the surface, but in private, they must be laughing at me for having a criminal father." Lin Jie snorted. "They are all a bunch of hypocrites, utterly disgusting." Nan Xi comforted him. "If you don't like them, you don't have to force yourself to interact with them. Life is only a few short decades. It's better to be happy." Lin Jie's expression darkened. "My father will probably never be happy again in this life." He then stopped talking. "Forget it, let's not talk about this anymore." Lin Jie then asked about Nan Xi and Rong Yu's marriage. There were rumors that Nan Xi had been forced into the prince's mansion by Rong Yu. Nan Xi admitted frankly, "It's true that I wasn't willing before, but now I've changed my mind. Such a large, high-quality pearl like Shizeng Wang is placed in front of me for me to play with. How can I refuse?" Lin Jie expressed disbelief at Nan Xi's opportunistic words. Sometimes people are like this. The more they deny something, the more it seems like they're covering something up. The more they admit it openly like this, the less people are willing to believe it. Nan Xi spread his hands. "Maybe I didn't sound sincere enough." Lin Jie chuckled. "Although I don't know what your attitude towards Uncle Huang is, I seem to understand why he's interested in you." Lin Jie could see that Nan Xi was indeed different from those so-called noble ladies and gentlemen. But in the eyes of those powerful people, someone like Nan Xi was considered beneath them. Especially since he's rich and has gained Shizeng Wang's favor, they've started to attack his background. Thinking of this, Lin Jie couldn't help but remind Nan Xi. "Many people are jealous of you. You have to be careful." Nan Xi just nodded lightly. "I know. Soldiers will block, water will cover. Worrying can't solve the problem." As they were talking, a loud announcement came from downstairs. "Fu Chenggongzi has arrived." Lin Jie excitedly pushed open the window. Then he called out to Nan Xi to come and see. Fu Chenggongzi is about to take the stage. Nan Xi followed his gaze and looked down at the stage below. His eyes widened in surprise. A slender young man in a light blue robe was walking towards the center of the stage, exuding an aura of gentle beauty. Cheers erupted from the audience below. Nan Xi also clearly saw Fu Chenggongzi's appearance. The so-called exceptional beauty was truly deserving of the name. This dignified prince even took a liking to an opera singer, and wanted to bring him back to the mansion as a concubine. Little did he know how formidable the other party's true identity was. Fu Chenggongzi's appearance caused a stir in the audience. However, Nan Xi noticed, "Doesn't Fu Chenggongzi need to wear makeup for the opera?" Lin Jie explained, "Fu Chenggongzi doesn't like heavy makeup. He only applies light powder before going on stage." When Lin Jie mentioned that Fu Chenggongzi had been performing for 6 years, Nan Xi was even more surprised. So young, and already a veteran of 6 years. He felt that this Fu Chenggongzi, besides beauty, also had some real talent. The audience below continued to shout out requests, but Fu Chenggongzi seemed to ignore them. Lin Jie explained, "Fu Chenggongzi has always been capricious. If he's not in the mood, he won't sing anyone's requests." Nan Xi also noticed Fu Chenggongzi's aloofness, but he didn't understand. Such a proud and aloof person, why would he agree to become the 7th prince's concubine? He then asked Lin Jie, "The guests who frequent Qingyan Theatre are all nobles. Does he dare to be so arrogant in front of them?" Lin Jie smiled and explained. "He probably has some powerful backing. As for who is supporting him, it's unknown. He's encountered quite a few things over the years since he became famous. Many powerful nobles with special privileges have tried to take advantage of him." Speaking of backing, Nan Xi suddenly had a thought. Could his backer be Rong Yu? But if that were the case, How could Rong Yu allow him to be taken by the seventh prince to become a concubine? The shouts from below continued. Fu Chenggongzi finally spoke, "I'll sing what I want to sing." Why are there so many demands? The nobles below continued to tease. Singing alone is so boring. You should sing with a beauty. Fu Chenggongzi smiled faintly. Isn't my appearance beautiful enough? The audience below was instantly captivated by this faint smile, and quieted down unconsciously. Nan Xi watched the scene below quietly from the private room. He felt that these nobles didn't seem like they were here to listen to the opera, but rather to admire a flower. Their behavior was truly unsightly. Speaking of this, he suddenly realized, the audience below are all men. Can only women book private rooms to listen to the opera? Lin Jie explained, that's the rule. Also set by Fu Chenggongzi. Private rooms are only for women. Nan Xi nodded. It seems that Fu Chenggongzi is a principled person. As they were talking, the sound of Fu Chenggongzi's accompanying instruments started. In an instant, the noise and shouts stopped abruptly. Everyone present seemed to have their throats choked. Nan Xi also stared intently at Fu Chenggongzi. He saw him holding a fan in his hand, his posture elegant and refined, his melodious voice carrying a hint of melancholy. He finally understood why Fu Cheng could captivate so many people. Lin Jie chuckled softly. Compared to the singing, I prefer his face. Look at these people here, aren't they all here for Fu Chenggongzi's looks? How many are truly here to listen to the opera? Nan Xi's gaze swept across the nobles below. Lin Jie sneered, don't let their glamorous appearance fool you. In private, who knows how many shameful hobbies they have. To be honest, my mother has also had her eye on Fu Chenggongzi. Nan Xi was shocked. Princess Xiang. Lin Jie quickly covered his mouth. Don't mention it, don't mention it. Family matters shouldn't be discussed outside. A loud announcement suddenly came from outside. The seventh prince has arrived. The audience below instantly erupted in commotion. Many people turned their heads. And some began to stand up and bow. As soon as the seventh prince arrived, his gaze fixed on Fu Chenggongzi. But Fu Cheng seemed unaffected, still focused on his singing. Lin Jie whispered, I've never heard of the seventh prince liking opera. What's he doing here? But Nan Xi knew. As expected, the events were unfolding just like in his past life. He couldn't help but say to Lin Jie, coming to the opera today is secondary. Watching the show is the main event. Lin Jie was puzzled. What do you mean? Did you know the seventh prince would come? Nan Xi didn't say anything more, only telling Lin Jie to wait and see. Lin Jie suddenly felt that Nan Xi's calm and composed demeanor was becoming more and more like Xizeng Wang. With the arrival of the seventh prince, the audience, which had been quietly listening to the opera, became restless. Because following closely behind the seventh prince was a group of guards. Several guards pushed their way through the crowd and walked to the stage. Our prince requests Fu Chenggongzi to join him in the private room for a conversation. The guards all had serious expressions, and they couldn't help but feel a bit disdainful inside. Fu Cheng, however, remained aloof and indifferent. I wonder what your prince wants to discuss with me. I'm in the middle of a performance. The guard's tone became aggressive. Our prince coming here personally is giving you face. Don't be ungrateful. Lin Jie couldn't help but comment, as expected of Fu Chenggongzi, he doesn't fear powerful people. Nan Xi raised an eyebrow and thought to himself, not fearing powerful people is nothing. He can even cause the prince to be dismembered. He then instructed Ying Shuang to go down and see what was happening. A concubine from a brothel couldn't compare to a lady from a merchant family. Before even entering the mansion, she started playing mind games, not only scheming to have the legal wife demoted, but also scheming to take control of all the properties in the legal wife's hands. She was confident that she would rule the inner courtyard of the Xiang mansion in the future. While Nan Xi was at the opera, Nan Xingzhe was busy arranging for Liu Xi, his concubine, to officially enter the family. Liu Xi pleaded tearfully, in a few days. It will be Master's birthday. I want to officially enter the family with Yue and celebrate Master's birthday together. Yue has grown up and has never been able to openly call you father. Just thinking about it makes my heart ache. Nan Yu had naturally learned Liu Xi's skills of playing the victim. After hearing this, she put on a show of being understanding and comforted Liu Xi, mother. Don't be too sad. Father has his difficulties. After all, elder sister is the legal daughter of the Xiang family. If she doesn't agree, I also. Nan Xi immediately reassured them. Don't worry. The emperor will also attend the birthday banquet this time. I will take the opportunity to bring up the matter of officially welcoming you into the family. As long as the emperor gives his approval, Yuan Shi and Nan Xi won't be able to say anything. He felt a surge of pride. As long as I can enter the Xiang mansion, my years of hard work will not be in vain. Nan Yu also put on an obedient expression and reassured her father. After I enter the mansion, I will definitely be respectful and obedient to madam and elder sister. I will definitely not cause them any trouble. Nan Xi fell for Liu Shi and her daughter's act completely. He believed that although Liu Shi came from a brothel, she was kind, virtuous, and self-respecting. She had been wronged for so many years, but never complained, always choosing to endure. And yet, Nan Xi and Yuan Shi couldn't tolerate them. Nan Xi felt both heartache and anger. Wishing he could go back and divorce Yuan Shi immediately. Inside, Liu Shi was already calculating her plans after entering the mansion. She was confident that once she entered the Xiang mansion, the inner courtyard would be under her control. He had the means to make Nan Xi regret her actions and lose everything. He would seize all of Madame Nan's assets. That merchant's daughter, reeking of copper stench, had no right to compete with him. After visiting Nan Xi at the Inn mansion for a while, Liu Shi and her daughter got up to leave. Liu Shi obediently saw Nan Xi off. After Nan Xi was out of sight, Liu Shi's demeanor changed instantly. Let's go. Mother will take you to the Qingyan Pavilion to enjoy some opera. Today's fortune is excellent. Maybe we'll even meet a benefactor. Nan Yu looked perplexed. What benefactor? I only like brother Qing Shu. I don't want any other benefactor. Liu Shi cursed inwardly. What's Jiu Qing Shu? Nan Xi is at odds with him now. What good is he to you? Nan Xi understood, but she was worried. She had already told Jiu Qing Shu about her pregnancy, and carried his child. Who else could she turn to if not him? Naturally, she didn't dare tell Lao Shi anything. Qingyan Pavilion was bustling with activity. Prince Qi's arrival disrupted the harmonious atmosphere. The guards forcefully announced that the prince demanded a private performance from Fu Chenggongzi. Tension filled the air. Fu Chenggongzi simply smiled faintly. In that case, please lead the way. Secretly relieved, Ling Jia still worried. Fu Chenggongzi might be in trouble today. Prince Qi's reputation precedes him. Who knows what he'll do? Nan Xi reassured him. Fu Chenggongzi doesn't seem like someone who'll suffer a loss. Lan Xi caught a familiar voice amidst the music. Wasn't that Nan Yu? What a coincidence. He immediately instructed Yinla to investigate. Yinla happened to have something to report. The spies tracking Nan Xi sent news that Xiang Yi also visited Liu Shi's residence. He plans to use the pregnancy as leverage to ask the emperor for a marriage decree, bringing Nan Yu and her mother into the mansion. Lan Xi realized, no wonder those two came to the opera in such high spirits. Lin Jia had heard of Nan Xing's father's philandering ways. Seeing Nan Xing's attitude, he guessed, are those two your father's illegitimate daughter and mistress? Nan Xingji replied calmly, she can wish all she wants, but it doesn't mean she'll succeed. Seeing her composure, Lin Jia asked, aren't you worried at all? Nan Xingji said, there's nothing to worry about. As long as Rong Yu doesn't allow them to enter the mansion, the emperor won't dare to defy him. Lin Jia suddenly remembered Regent Wang. Then, hearing Nan Xingji say, with small fry like them, there's no need for Rong Yu to intervene, he understood. Nan Xi knew clearly that Nan Yu had harmed her in her past life. She wouldn't be satisfied unless she dealt with her personally. Ying Shuang reported that Prince Qi was harassing Fu Chenggongzi. A playful smile appeared on Nan Xi's lips. Wait here. I'll go take a look. After admiring our hero, I'll have Fu Chenggongzi sing a song just for you. Lin Jia asked, are you going personally? Nan Xi initially planned to send someone to help Fu Chenggongzi, but Nan Yu's presence changed her mind. How could she expose their scheme if she didn't go herself? Lin Jia suddenly became interested. I'll go too. With my mother's protection, they won't dare do anything to me. Nan Xi and Lin Jia descended the stairs calmly. Seeing the guards outside the private room, Lin Jia stepped forward angrily. I was enjoying the opera. Who dared interrupt my entertainment by taking Fu Cheng Gongzi away? A guard hurriedly bowed. Greetings, young miss. My lord wishes to speak with Fu Cheng Gongzi privately. Lin Jia retorted, so can't I come? Miss Nan and I also have something to discuss with Fu Cheng Gongzi. Are you going to stop us too? The guard stammered. His Highness ordered that no one is allowed to enter. Lin Jia furiously interrupted. What if I insist on entering? Two young ladies openly challenged a prince over an opera singer. One invoked the emperor's name. The other invoked Regent Wang. Even their servants showed no respect for the prince. Outside the door, when the guard tried to stop her, Lin Jia raged, if I insist on entering, Fu Cheng Gongzi is under my protection. If anyone harms a hair on his head, he'll have the emperor answer for it. This put the guards in a difficult position. The prince forbade anyone from entering, but the young miss insisted. Nan Xi added to the pressure. Fine, we won't go in. Then go call Fu Cheng Gongzi out. The head guard knew that was impossible, and was at a loss. He simply glanced at Nan Xi, neither explaining nor acting. Yinla roared, are you deaf? Miss Nan is betrothed to Regent Wang. Her words are Regent Wang's words. You dare disobey? The head guard's face paled. This was Miss Nan, an even bigger figure than the young miss. He no longer dared to delay. He hastily apologized, I was blind. Please forgive me, Miss Nan. I'll inform His Highness immediately. Nan Xi instructed Ying Shuang to follow him. The head guard hesitated, but Nan Xi reassured him, don't worry, Ying Shuang won't offend your prince. Despite her words, everyone knew Nan Xi's people were not to be trifled with. They were prone to violence. But since Nan Xi had spoken, the head guard could only comply. He watched Ying Shuang follow closely behind, feeling uneasy. One was the emperor's niece. The other Regent Wang's future wife. He was just a lowly guard. What could he do? When the guard opened the door, Fu Cheng Gongzi was being forcibly held down by two dancers. Ying Shuang's eyes narrowed. He rushed forward and subdued the two before anyone could react. No one saw how the two dancers were thrown out. Even the head guard, just entering to report, was stunned. Prince Qi rose abruptly. Who is it? Two guards reacted quickly, shielding him. Ying Shuang stood opposite them, arms crossed, staring coldly at the prince. The prince regained his composure. What's going on? I just heard that young Miss and Miss Nan wished to see Fu Cheng Gongzi. Prince Qi raged, insolent. The head guard knelt and pleaded for forgiveness. Fu Cheng Gongzi rose and asked, which Miss Nan wishes to see me? Ying Shuang replied, the eldest Miss Nan. Fu Cheng Gongzi paused. Then without another word, turned and walked towards the door. Seeing this, Prince Qi became even angrier. What are you waiting for? Seize him. The two guards immediately moved to obey. Ying Shuang intercepted them, blocking Fu Cheng Gongzi's path. In the next second, the three clashed. Each blow was forceful. Ying Shuang held his own, the force of his attacks even brushing against Prince Qi. Fu Cheng Gongzi saw Nan Xi and Lin Jia waiting outside. Nan Xi greeted him first. Fu Cheng Gongzi, are you all right? He smiled faintly. I'm fine. I apologize for interrupting Miss Nan and young Miss Enjoyment. If you'll permit, I would be happy to sing a song for you privately. Lin Jia was surprised. Fu Cheng Gongzi actually offered to sing for them. Nan Xi readily agreed. Wonderful. Young Miss and I have reserved the Qian Zihao private room. Please come with us. Fu Cheng Gongzi gestured politely, young Miss and Miss Nan, after you. As they reached the stairs, they encountered Nuanu. She looked bewildered. Elder sister. Nan Xi glanced at her indifferently. So you're here too. Nuanu started to explain nervously, elder sister, Nan Xi cut her off. You don't need to explain. I'm not interested in your affairs. Nuanu trailed off. Humiliated by the public rebuke. Nan Xi didn't even pause. Lin Jia, naturally, ignored Nuanu, walking past without a glance. Even Fu Cheng Gongzi seemed to ignore her, walking by without a word. Nuanu clenched her fists, watching them leave. Nan Xingji, enjoy your fleeting moment of glory. Today, it'll ruin your reputation at Qingyan Pavilion completely. Nuanu glared at Nan Xi's back, seething with hatred. She swore to destroy Nan Xi's reputation at Qingyin Pavilion that very day. A short while later, Nania arrived at Prince Qi's door. She claimed to have important information for him, asking the servant to announce her arrival. Just then, a figure crashed through the door, landing heavily on the floor. The servant appeared severely injured, groaning and unable to stand. Ying Shuang emerged calmly, his demeanor cold and imposing. Nuanu was startled by the scene and Ying Shuang's icy glare, but he ignored her completely, walking away without a backward glance. Prince Qi stormed out, his face livid. He saw a stunned Nuanu. Controlling his anger, he asked, "Who are you? What are you doing here?" Nuanu recovered and curtsied. "Your Highness, I have something important to tell you. But I'm afraid it might be overheard here." Prince Qi stuttered her, his gaze lingering on the bruise on her neck. He opened the door and gestured for her to enter. In a private room, Yinla served Fu Cheng Gongzi tea. The opera wasn't important. Lin Jia was more concerned about why Prince Qi had sought out Fu Cheng Gongzi. He asked if Fu Cheng Gongzi would mind explaining. Fu Cheng didn't hesitate. "Prince Qi took a fancy to me. He wants me to be his concubine." Lin Jia was shocked. She had never heard of Prince Qi having such proclivities. She asked anxiously if Fu Cheng Gongzi had agreed. He smiled. "If it weren't for young Miss and Miss Nan arriving in time, perhaps I would have agreed." Lin Jia was indignant. "Fu Cheng Gongzi is the star performer of Qingyin Pavilion. How can you become a concubine? Prince Qi's request is preposterous. It's an insult." Fu Cheng Gongzi remained calm. "Please, young miss, don't be upset. It's all right now." Lin Jia still worried. "What if Prince Qi returns? Will you really give in?" Fu Cheng Gongzi replied ambiguously, "It depends." Nan Xi observed Fu Cheng thoughtfully. She felt he didn't seem particularly resentful, or afraid of Prince Qi. If, in her past life, he hadn't been forced into Prince Qi's mansion, what was the real reason for the prince's death? Meanwhile, Rong Yu was inspecting the training of his mansion guards. Xiang reported that Prince Qi requested an audience. Rong Yu permitted it. Soon, Prince Qi arrived and bowed. "Greetings, uncle." Rong Yu asked, "What is it?" Prince Qi hesitated slightly. "I just encountered Miss Nan at Qingyin Pavilion. I was worried about her being alone outside, so I came to inform you." Rong Yu frowned, his expression darkening. Prince Qi observed his face, pleased. It seemed Regent Wang didn't know Nan Xi had gone to the opera house. Whether he truly liked Nan Xi or not. Who would allow their future wife to frequent such places? He added hastily, "Uncle, don't misunderstand. Miss Nan was merely enjoying the opera. She didn't meet anyone she shouldn't have." Xiang watched Prince Qi with a knowing look. This was a blatant attempt to slander Miss Nan, and sow discord between her and Regent Wang. Too obvious. Rong Yu's face grew colder, his eyes flashing with a dangerous glint. "You came all this way just to tell me this." Nuanu intended to frame Nan Xi. She colluded with Prince Qi to create a trap, not only to ruin Nan Xi's reputation, but also to damage her relationship with Regent Wang. But she hadn't expected that Nan Xi had anticipated her actions. All her schemes were part of Nan Xi's plan. Prince Qi wanted to inform Rong Yu of Nan Xi's presence at Qingyin Pavilion. Seeing Rong Yu's darkening expression, Prince Qi felt a surge of triumph. He added, "Don't misunderstand, uncle. Miss Nan merely admires Fu Cheng Gong's music, so she requested a private performance. I was worried for her safety, so I came to inform you. My guards are stationed outside." Rong Yu's expression remained impassive. "And who was she with?" Prince Qi conveniently omitted Lin Jia, mentioning only 2 servants. "It's just that I was worried that the boy and girl would be threatened, so I came to tell the Emperor's uncle that my guards were already guarding the door." Rong Yu looked coldly and asked the man's wife who he was going with. The king did not say that the Ling family was also there. He only said that he was watching. "It was you who brought 2 of them to Nan Xi." He was certain Rong Yu was unaware of Nan Xi's visit to the opera house. Rong Yu countered, "You didn't recognize those 2 servants. They are from my mansion. Their skills far surpass your guards." Prince Qi's expression faltered as Rong Yu continued, "Nan Xi is my woman. Her whereabouts and safety are none of your concern." Prince Qi was speechless, inwardly fuming. Xiang understood. Prince Xi had come to frame Miss Nan. Such petty tricks were useless against his lord. He should learn some real strategy from consort. Fei in the palace. The events at Qingyan Pavilion unfolded as planned. Nuanu coordinated with Prince Xi. While Nan Xi and the others were relaxing, a servant approached Lin Jia. She said her mistress invited young Miss to a private meeting. Lin Jia asked, "Who is your mistress?" The servant remained evasive, only saying, "You'll know when you arrive, young Miss." Lin Jia scoffed. "So mysterious. Do you think I'm some errant girl?" "I go wherever I'm called." The servant hesitated, glancing at Nan Xi. "My mistress is someone you know, young Miss. It's just not convenient to say here."